Today on Mob Rules,
we talk about banana hammocks.
And Fulgrim.
And we wrap up the painting competition. All that and a little bit else on Mob Rules. Everybody,
What up? How's it going?
So how does John usually start these? I've never actually had to start one.
You know,
this is Ted from Mob Rules, and as always, I'm joined by Dave.
Hey, this is Dave, and our special guest today.
Hey,
fresh off the boat from LVO.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
From the banana boat.
Danny.
Oh, it was a banana boat.
Oh, was it really? Was this the LVO banana boat, or is this a different banana boat at LVO?
Can it be both?
I don't know.
It can be.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember. I don't remember the actual LVO. The LVO was really specific, right? Like there wasn't a whole lot of bananaing, was there? But
well, it depends on where you go.
Oh, yeah.
There's some back rooms that are very banana.
That's true. There were some back rooms. I do remember that. Like a little under the table bananaing. I mean, everybody's like packed in there pretty tight. It's like a Japanese subway.
Yeah, it's like a banana hammock. I mean, I think we can keep going with the banana. Yeah, banana theme here. Yeah.
When everybody's like rubbed up on each other, they don't notice. Which one of you is groping me? Which one of you is banana?
That actually sounds really familiar. I think that happened to a couple of our guys last time we went down there, Ted.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I think it was our guys that kept groping us though. So it's
Alaskans. Like, I haven't seen a woman in a long time.
John, stop touching my butt.
I haven't seen my wife in hours. Well, that just worked out.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to? We'll start with Dave.
We'll start with me. No, John always starts. You're John.
Really?
You're MC Ted. You gotta.
Okay.
Actually, I kind of want to know what Danny's been up to.
I want to know what.
Do you really? Yeah, the LVO stuff, man. Talk to us.
Okay, so
we're just going to jump into like an LVO section then.
Sure.
Yeah, because this is intense.
We're going to get you back every week to talk about it, though.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to break it up into segments? I can serialize this if you'd like.
The sober versus drunk.
I did not get as drunk as I wanted to, which is really a shame. Dave, first of all, I have to give a little shout out to Dave here.
Okay. No, don't do that. That's always bad.
No, this Dave. It's this Dave. Yeah, this Dave. So, Dave, the perfect gentleman that he is. Ended up.
We were not talking about the rights.
Yeah. No.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Let me finish. He gave me a little bit of spending money to buy a round of drinks for all the guys at LVO. So that was from the guys from Alaska specifically. So
I was like, that was super cool. Not everybody.
It's like a
Hey, this is from Dave. It's there's 528 of us. It's one round of drinks each. One giant. Floozy of slushy.
It's like and there goes my income.
Yeah. There's a case of Tate or something like that.
Hobby budget spent in one section.
No problem. $30 a pop. Let's see. Let's do the math.
28.
Holy crap.
Just an increase on my allowance.
How much do one of those big Slurpee things run?
It depends on the size and style of the mug that you get.
Yeah.
So, for instance, you could get a 32-ounce frozen concoction, and that ran about $23.
Damn.
Then you get a cup.
Okay.
Right? So you can refill a cup for like $15.
Oh, okay.
So you get a little bit of a discount. Right. Or you can buy the giant champagne bottle on a chain, which I did.
Did you really?
Classy.
Yeah, well, it is, as you do.
Where do you chain it? Like on your
around
waist?
my neck.
Oh, on your neck.
Yeah,
okay.
so that way I don't
like
have to. Well, that way I don't have to actually use my hands to drink. It's totally hands-free. It's like a beer helmet.
Grope boobies.
Oh, nice.
Throw dice and all that stuff.
Butts or whatever.
Happens to be under the table at the time.
Dude, those
banana hammocks.
I mean, they don't do sportsmanship scores anymore, but
it's a soft
I'm old
score.
school. Well, no, it's not a soft score.
And this is how we got our explicit rating.
This episode of Mob Rules brought to you by the letter XXX.
But no, it was a really good time. I had 6 really fun games. I went 4-2, which was my goal. So that was really good. And I was actually 4-1 going into my last game. So
and the guy cheated.
No. Yeah. So funny story.
Oh, really?
I got him pretty good actually.
Oh, you cheated?
No, I didn't cheat. No, it was purely by the rules, my friend. So
he's trying to bring his rep up from the ad that we made.
So the same call that Nick Nanavati used against Tony Grippando, where he said that he couldn't assault with the Shining Spears after he advanced, because you have to use the stratagem that lets them charge after they advance.
Okay.
When they do their advance, my opponent did that without realizing it, and so I was like, well, I'm not in this game anyway. Might as well, like, this guy's been kind of not the friendliest guy to start with, so I'm gonna get him with the rules here a little bit.
Okay.
So that kept me in the game for like an extra turn.
Oh, wow.
But he was playing the exact same list that all the winners were using. Both the winners had really similar lists.
Did you run over to Nick and like high five him? Dude, I totally Alexed him.
I mean, I could have, but I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Besides, he's in like a private room. I don't know if you know, like the last round table is like on this whole like curtained off area, kind of like the champagne room.
Oh, where they were.
There was,
right?
There actually was sex happening back there. At least somebody got fucked. I think it was Tony.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Nice.
I mean, that whole drama just I'm polarized. The LVO drama, I'm polarized on it because they had top players on their streams.
Okay.
And Phil somehow.
Did he really?
Yeah, Phil was on the Frontline Gaming stream.
They kept people kept asking for the Glacial Geek, so
I kept asking for Eric. But
that's cool, man.
He was on there. He got beat pretty handily.
Funny story, my next round opponent was the guy who played him.
Oh, yeah?
Oh.
Yeah, and so the guy was a nice enough guy, but he's kind of got that East Coast bluster going on.
Mm-hmm.
Not bluster, like the frankness, like the upfrontness that they have. There's no fucking around with that guy. Anyway, he didn't know his Eldar rules super well. So I had to call him out on a couple of things, like... Yeah. Man, you're not doing that right, or the range of that is not 48 inches, it's 36 inches and that kind of stuff. So, I don't know if Phil got the raw end of that in a couple of situations, but...
I don't know. We can always go back and watch later.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah. Let's go to the replay, right?
Yeah. We'll request more of him.
All right, so they pan the camera up to see Phil's face right here, and after watching his guys get exploded, you could see all of the hope drain out of his face right now.
That's the 13.1.
Have you ever seen him? He would never be sad.
Oh, totally. He's not. There wasn't nearly enough wooing. Like, people in the chat when Phil was playing were sitting there going, why isn't he wooing? Where's his woos? Where's the woos? And the frontline gaming people are like, what are you talking about? Why would he woo? And it's like, that's his thing. And it's not mean. It's not a mean, like, it's just a woo.
Yeah. It's an excited woo.
It's an excited, happy woo. He woos when you do good. He woos when he does good. Yeah. They were like, whoa.
I mean, was the pressure on? I mean, there's some intense lights when you get into that.
I think he was afraid to be himself. Because first off, if I'm playing at LVO and I'm just having a good time and Reese walks up to me and is like, hey, man, we want you on the stream, I'd be like, what? Have you seen my paint jobs? I don't belong in your stream.
I'm going to actually text him right now and ask him why he didn't woo.
There wasn't any woos. But I kept asking Warhammer TV to get Eric on.
Oh, yeah, that would have been good.
Because they were...
Eric?
Rickards, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the reason for it is they wanted to see different lists.
Yeah.
And his list is very different.
I said, you want to see different lists? Get this guy on. He's, he's running this. He's running this combo and this combo. And it's, like no list is similar to it at all. The rest of the lists were all like, hey, it's 5 Flyrants versus 4 Flyrants. And, it was, but...
So, for reference, Eric's list is a weird mashup of Tyranids, Genestealer Cult, and an Astra Militarum Supreme command attachment with a Shadow Sword.
Okay.
So, like, it's
kind of fluffy.
Yeah, it's a very fluffy list.
You don't think so?
Okay.
Well, I mean, lore-wise, that's the kind of thing you would see, as the Genestealer Cult takes over everything, it gets everything. I mean, technically it's fluffy from that sense, so it works out.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think that they like spare. I don't think the Tyranids spare the Gene Stealer cult too much. Like, I think they pretty much just eat him if they're in the way.
Maybe that was like them opening the door for them and that battle right there. Like,
maybe that's the case.
I don't know.
I mean, they'd open it with the Shadow Sword.
Yeah. It's not like they did like Tyranids, Gene Stealer cult, and Tau.
Luckily, you can't do that kind of stupid stuff anymore. Have I said how great 8th edition is yet?
So
like,
good.
Man, yeah,
so good.
Yeah, I'm really happy.
It's good stuff. I liked Eric's list. I kind of wish it had been slightly better painted, like slightly more finished. I think that was the reason that he didn't end up on the stream because they were looking for him.
Sure.
But I've seen pictures of it. I was like, well, most of his models look really good, but some of them just kind of meet the requirements, which apparently was not a requirement this year, from what I understand. Right? Didn't Nick have unpainted models?
No. That was actually a common misconception. They were up to the 3-color standard. They were kind of washed. So, like, that was something they clarified, I think, in last week's Signals from the Frontline. That people were saying that his stuff wasn't painted, but it was painted. Apparently. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Honestly, I didn't really look at his army. I assumed that it was really shittily painted. So
you don't have to have a good paint scheme to win, man.
No, totally true.
They don't factor in like paint schemes, do they?
It's not a part of competition scoring anymore, which is both good and bad.
Yeah, it's good in the sense of it's not a competition to see how well you can paint. They have scoring for that separately by itself, so it shouldn't factor actually into your full-on end score.
Well, if that's the case, I mean, it's an aesthetic hobby, like intrinsically an aesthetic hobby. So I think like by like ignoring that, like you're taking part of the inherent value, like part of the hobby. Otherwise, you'd be playing Risk or like checkers. Like if you don't have like a visual like representation of that like autark, like
sure.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, but for some people, painting isn't fun. It's not the part of the hobby they like. So
for other people, like being competitive isn't.
Yeah. So I mean, there's different aspects to the hobbies.
Like, to me, I think that, and I'm kind of old school. I'd probably come from more of a line like Ted does, where previously in editions, a paint score was part of your overall score.
Right.
And so watching the paint score get removed from tournaments, as somebody who goes to tournaments fairly regularly, I've noticed the hobby aspect of the armies has gone down by an insane amount. Where before, like, you would end up with like some really nice painted armies at every single tournament. Now, pretty much nobody has a really nicely painted army because they don't have to. Like, why do it if you don't have to put in the time and effort into that stuff?
That's hurtful. Ted and I, both Ted and I have played in tournaments up here, Danny, and that's. Ted's models are very nicely painted.
Yeah, I stand by what I said.
I'm telling Matt Morse you said that. That's because he doesn't listen to this. I mean,
I don't know.
He's too busy learning how to make stuff glow.
So I just got a message from Philly. He's like, I had no idea what was going on in the stream chat and didn't want to woo an unsuspecting opponent and an attorney. I don't woo opponent rolls, and I try not to woo unsuspecting opponents at tournaments. So I guess there's an acculturation thing that has to happen with the woo. You don't want to woo a stranger and have them grab your banana hammock when it's inappropriate.
That's fair. I can get behind that.
Yeah. In my culture, woo's as good as a roofie.
I come from Alaska, where we grab the banana hammock and woo at the same time. And woo! Successful roll.
It's all part of the maneuver.
The maneuver.
I was going to say the woo mover.
Next thing you know, you're on your face. Anyway, just derailed that.
Yeah, so totally derailed. All right, so Danny, you played 6 games down at LVO. You had a great time. You went 4-2. Was there any time that you just absolutely were just pissed off at the people you were playing? Like
No. Everybody was pretty nice, generally speaking. Like, obviously some people are going to be a little bit more intense when they play rather than like joking around and having a good time. But mostly everybody was really cool. The guy who first beat me, I mean, he was super nice. Bad dice rolls, like, that's the worst. Well, bad compared to good, like that. Yeah. Anyway, he bought me a beer because he was a good guy.
Oh, cool.
Nice. So, but yeah, it was really, really fun time. I would recommend anybody who's thinking about going to go. I was talking with Pablo a little bit. He stopped by to see how all of us were doing and like to fill us in on the latest gossip that was going around with the game that had just finished. The last round. And so...
is he heading back up this year?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably...
Did you ask?
No, I didn't.
Why didn't you ask? Why didn't you ask?
Danny was drunk.
Danny, why didn't
No, I wasn't drunk at that time, which is a real shame.
Yeah, you just have no excuse.
You should have just messaged me.
So tired, man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
after
It's
playing
fine.
all those games, like, just you're so exhausted. Especially 2 days, like one day and then another day. Like, I was gonna play in the RTT the next day, and I was just like, nope, I'm just gonna chill out.
It was weird.
Lose
Like,
a bunch of money at gambling.
used to work construction quite a bit, and like there'd be like days where we're working like 16 hours, usually like 10 to 12, and like you work like 6 to 7 days like that, and at the end of the day you're like, I'm gonna go home and do these things, like you don't feel exhausted, but like sitting and like playing a game for like a day straight, let alone like 2 or 3, like that's way more exhausting, I find.
Oh, like you're mentally
digging
drained.
dishes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, because it's like, even though you don't think about it as being like a particularly physical hobby, like it is in a lot of ways. I mean, you're standing all day, you're constantly walking around the table. I always find whenever I'm measuring my steps on those days, like that I take, like via my Fitbit,
Oh, okay.
I always like triple my daily steps.
Really?
Playing in a tournament.
It's like the stepping back and forth and moving your guys is
Right,
yeah,
and
wow,
like the
interesting.
constant moving.
My feet are usually hurt at the end of it, so it's.
I mean, yeah, kind of if you think about it.
Yeah.
Usually by game 3, I have to find a chair to be sitting down in because I'm like, you know what? I just can't stand for this long. I'm getting too old for this.
God, I usually feel bad about it. Like, I can't possibly be sitting down and like playing a game of Warhammer. What kind of pussy am I? But yeah, no, it's for real. I'm so glad you said that. It's like 3 times or like several times you're walking.
Yeah, I end up moving around a lot.
Now I feel it.
Do you like cookies but want something more British? Buy biscuits. Not like those you have for gravy. British biscuits. For dunking in your British tea. Stiff upper lip guaranteed. Biscuits. As recommended by Queen Liz of the Britons.
We're not recording. There we're recording. Hey, now we're recording. Landlording.
What a great break.
It was. Yeah, it sure was.
I feel refreshed.
Had some water, a little cold air on your back.
It was good stuff.
It was kind of nice. I was getting sweaty there for a little bit. All this hot talk of LVO.
You know, I didn't even go outside during the day.
Really?
Until like I was leaving.
Yeah.
And I walked outside. I'm like, oh, the sun. Oh, it's terrible.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like a really good nerd experience. So it was like being in the basement for like 5
Nice.
days. I did venture under the surface. Yeah. You know, at night.
Surface.
Well, that's where we get all the cheap drinks from.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, we ate this at this fried chicken place.
Yeah.
It was the best fried chicken I've ever had in my entire life.
That's
we
pretty-
went back for seconds.
What was so good about it?
I don't know. Like it was really juicy.
Yeah.
And they had like a really good, kind of like almost like a dry rub on the breading.
Wow.
I got a dry. Never mind.
Yeah. Do you get a dry rub on your breading?
All over the place.
The problem is you keep using spices, so
I
it's,
see. Yeah.
Oh.
And that's where the rash came from.
All the burning. All the burning. This game doesn't end.
so.
Cool. So how was the vendor table and like all the? Did you get a chance to like go
man.
and take a look at everything else that was going down?
Yes. So I went and ordered some stuff from Forge World.
Okay.
Although they didn't have it there, so they'll ship it to me for free.
Cool.
So I just bought it there. Well, the convention rate was a little high.
Yeah.
But that was okay. I was happy to get some real Forge World.
Some real Forge World?
I have a lot of fake Forge World.
Oh, Danny.
Sorry.
You know what? At least you've seen the light.
Yeah,
You know.
that's good. It's something about that. I think like the like going and buying it at the table. Like I know, like each time I bought it, I knew that I was paying like 20% more or whatever. I can't remember. Like we counted it at one point, but it was like, I keep going back. I have to go get a Primark. I have to go do this. Even with shipping, it's cheaper online, but they could do it, and it's like the busiest table there.
It was not too busy. I was both times I went up there, I was able to just walk right up and start talking to the
cool.
sales rep, which was cool.
Yeah.
Was that a James Monk? Was it that?
I have
okay.
no idea.
All right. There's like a really enthusiastic guy with like short hair and
It
glasses.
was a really enthusiastic guy with short hair, but I don't know if he had glasses. I don't know.
Oh.
Anyway,
Yes, glasses. Maybe he doesn't.
he was English dude.
Yeah, okay. That's probably him. He's
Maybe,
red.
yeah. And there was a girl with red hair and I think she had like big gauged ears.
Oh, okay.
So I think she was British too.
Did you say gauge or aged?
Yeah,
because I don't know what the second one.
What is aged? What is an aged ear, dude?
I don't know. I heard
there like hair sticking out of them, or like
it's like George Washington's
spots.
What I heard was she was a redhead girl, and she had big aged ears, and I went, I don't know what that, like she got she got Milton Berle ears, just these old floppy ears, it's just hair everywhere. You're like, man, that chick's pretty hot. That just tucks her hair behind her ears, and you're like, never mind. Nope.
It's like what was it, like Jeremy Button thing, or what was his name? Was it backwards?
Benjamin. Yeah, she's got Benjamin Button ears.
Gross.
That's hot. By the time she's 80, they'll be really sexy ears, but right now, not so much.
Very tight.
Wow, I heard like in the Victorian era, like they had like a thing with mummies and shit. Like people would like go and like dig up mummies and like they'd buy them, and like I don't know. I wonder if that could be like a thing where they're like, oh, I have aged ears. I just put these.
I think that's how the gash started.
I'm trying to figure out like where your train of thought was to that.
Just like cutting off mummies' ears and wearing them on their ears. Like I have aged ears.
I see.
Like an accessory,
like an ear sleeve,
like a Buffalo Bill like kind of ear mask.
Yeah,
just for your ears,
right?
Yeah,
it puts the lotion on its ears, or else it gets the hose, I guess.
Very skin tight earmuffs,
but it's like an Egyptian ear that they're wearing over their real ear, like this 3,000-year-old ear.
It's like black.
Yeah. So Ted, what have you been up to?
I'm trying to come up with a new fad involving 3,000-year-old mummies.
Ted's had a lot of time on his hands.
Ted's notes. Can I see your notes? What does this say? Mummy earmuffs? What does that mean?
Things to do on Thursday.
Things to work in a conversation.
It's kind of like a Mad Lib.
Ted's playing podcast bingo. I was like,
man.
Check that off. That's a bingo.
That sounds like a good idea. I kind of like that.
We could totally do that.
All right, John, remember this for some other future episode.
Note to John.
Yeah.
Hasn't been. I don't think I played any games. Maybe like
no more second edition or anything.
No, I still haven't. Like Kurt's been working on some engineering project, so he's been really busy.
Right. How dare he get famous?
Danny, did you ever do second edition?
I have played second edition when I was like 13.
Oh, okay. So you remember it then?
I mean,
maybe after this week.
Yeah. Nominally, I remember it, and I remember downloading or having the rules. Like, but it was so complicated.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
Like, dude,
it seemed easy to me, but then I was an adult then. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of nice that it's simplified a little bit, but some other things, like I love like turning marks and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, some of the stuff, like, I mean, obviously when you deal with a more complicated rule set like that, you gain some things, like some intricacies you couldn't express, like with the streamlined nature that the game like has now, like pairing with a chainsword, or like having weapons that do different dice of damage, like D12 damage on a las cannon, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, having like a ogre and throw a grenade farther than a grot.
Which makes sense. I mean, makes sense in a way. Is he throwing the grot or the grenade?
Yeah, so if he threw the grot, then the grot threw the grenade. How far is that?
Yeah,
that's really far.
Is that 8 inches plus?
Right. There should be like the grot modifier.
Ogre is way more than 8 inches.
So the grot was springboarding. I see.
Oh,
like
I see.
Board.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was confused.
So instead of doing homework, I spent one day last weekend working on our Yada Yada Marine. So that was pretty crazy. Like I think like going into that, like I thought that paint scheme was gonna suck balls. Like I really did. It was like quartered and red and white. Like I didn't like that idea at all. But I think like when it came down to it, like throwing all the extra stuff into it, like that was the way to go. Like like the extra dirt and grime and chipping and stuff like that. Like, and I'm glad that he had all the extra pouches. Like. That was it. I think that's why mine is better than yours.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
I mean,
pouches.
Had you put pouches and weathering and skill into it, it would have been better.
I'll have you know.
Last part, that was the burn. Just so
Is that what it was?
The rest of it was nice, friendly suggestions.
So you airbrushed yours out, right?
Oh, that's not part of it.
I'm just asking. So you airbrushed yours out, right?
Yeah.
And I'm still dealing with a broken airbrush, so
Oh, okay.
I mean, I wouldn't have venue. I wouldn't even have attempted a quarter scheme with an airbrush. I'm not nearly skilled enough with that. I would have been like, all right, I got the red out, and now a quarter out. All right, it's all white. Okay, is that what I meant to do?
I got to say, like, as somebody who's just learning how to do an airbrush, like, you could totally do it. You could totally quarter a marine with an airbrush. Like, it would not be that hard.
Yeah, you just done right there. It's quartered. In this quarter, I put a little bit of red. In this quarter, I put a little bit of red. This quarter, I put a little bit of red. And then this little red.
A little bit of happy red over here.
It's all red. No, I did it in quarters.
I will say, my house is divided right now.
Between quarters?
Alexis loves yours.
Oh, okay.
And Jess likes mine better, not because she
has to sleep with you.
Right. No. And then Ryan absolutely doesn't give a shit. So he was like, all right, Ryan, you're the deciding factor. Which one of these looks better? Look, I don't care. I've got some PUBG to play, and then walk out.
Wow.
I was like, I don't know whether he'd be sad or happy. I mean, he's a video game nerd.
Yeah. What's PUBG?
I don't know.
It's a multiplayer game thing where you eliminate people out, I guess. Like, I don't know. I've never played it, so I can't afford to buy video games. I'm a plastic crack. What are you talking about?
You poor thing. See, the nice thing is there's like an intersection now. Like in White Dwarf, there's like free downloads codes for stream.
Yeah. I guess you could check that out, but I'm busy not sweating over hand painting a quarter scheme and then doing hand painting, pin washing everywhere to make it look right.
Do you sweat when you paint?
I do when you.
When you quarter something.
So everybody I talked to said the same thing. They're like, do the white first.
Yeah.
Because you won't be able to get the red line. You won't be able to get white to cover the red.
And being Dave, you're like, fuck that.
No, I did it.
Oh, really?
I did it. I actually listened to experts.
Oh, okay.
Who, after they laughed at me for not wanting to do it with an airbrush, said, well, this is what I would do.
Okay.
So I followed it, and then I did that. But painting that red line, knowing that if I fucked up the red, all right, I got the red line. Oh, okay, no, we're going to do orc zigzags. Got it. Orc zigzags, how we're going to do this, apparently. That I wouldn't be able to cover it with the white, because it just wouldn't work without how I'd be like, nope, time to start over.
See, that's where weathering comes in. Like, I'm going to fix that with chipping. It's like chip right there.
Yeah, I haven't mastered that aspect yet. I'm still in the shake and bake phase, so it's just throw it in that bag of shake and bake and call it good.
So the whole model is flocked. He's Moss Man from He-Man.
It's camouflage. It's a velvet marine. What do you want?
A Gillis suit.
So you worked on that.
And some custodes. That has been kind of fun. Like, I think, like, I wasn't going to touch the custodes for a while because, like, cold. It's going to be, like, super boring.
Right, for, like, Lent. You're giving up custodes.
right. Before I start. So they've been sitting there for a long time just, like, primed, and that was it. But I think doing those videos, like the Terminator video, and then actually I think the bike video should be out before this drops. But I'm super happy with like the different like trying to push gold a little bit further and like come up with different hues and values inside of it, and like doing just like taking a little step further, it becomes more interesting.
There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with gold and like stippling. Like that you can so you can make it look like it's a little bit beat up.
Okay.
I've done some cool stuff with that before, and your stuff looks good, really good. Even though I'm fairly critical of your bases.
I don't know, Danny. What's wrong with his bases? Is there a problem with them?
I mean,
so why are you gonna stir the pot, Dave? Why are you gonna stir the pot? We were good just right there.
No, it's. I mean,
no, this is actually a subject.
It's your model. So I mean, do what you do.
So don't tell me what to do with it, Danny.
I'm not.
Danny.
I'm just saying I don't like the Goblin Marine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so if you want to if you look at me when you say it, you're not actually telling him.
Oh, okay.
You're telling me.
I will tell him. I'm
all right.
I don't like the Goblin Green on your bases. But they're your models, so you can do with it as
whatever. You're white.
You got me. Just like 98% of the other people that use the
So I think like the Goblin Green thing. I think like I've been painting the Goblin Green ring or some variation. I think before it was like Catagen Green, and now it's actually Warpstone Glow or whatever. But anyway, that's something that like. GW's been doing that since the very beginning of time, and they still do it.
They did do it.
They still do it.
When?
Now, the Great Unclean one, like
he does not have a green base.
It does. Yeah, but it might be like like a brownish green or whatever. But like
I was going to say, I think they actually do stuff in brown for the most part. Not
colorblind.
They do like the brown edging.
Okay.
I like brown or gray or black, all those kind of neutral colors, I guess.
But yeah, I think they were doing that for a while. Like occasionally, like you'll see the GW Prime do like a black base, and I've definitely noticed like ever since, because just like in the last couple of years, I've been getting like some pushback from some people. So it seems like it's with like War Machine, like they really pushed the black, and then like Forge World started pushing black, and like occasionally GW Prime will do like a black base once in a while. So so I think I'm for a long time like, well, I'm not gonna like just go along with whatever it is that the fad, but I'm definitely seeing now where. Like, maybe it is like a... What?
It's brown.
Oh, it's brown. It's brown. Okay. It looks green to my colorblind ass, so...
Oh, that explains so many things.
Yeah, dude. I didn't start painting, like, paintings until I was, like, 27, because I remember, as a kid, like, I painted, like, the old, like, egg chicken walker Sentinels. Okay. I painted one. I was so happy with it, and I showed my buddy. I'm like, yeah, man, look what I did. He's like, that thing is so gay. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's purple. I was like, no, it's not. He's like, yeah, it is. It's purple. I'm like, no, it's not. We, like, argued over it until I grabbed the pot of paint. I was like, here, see. Oh, light purple. Oh, okay. Never mind. It's not great. But, yeah,
that explains why most of your Astra Militarum were actually gene stealer cultists for so long.
That's right. What? What's wrong with their complexion?
It's flesh colored. What are you talking about?
No, it's purple, man. But I think I was talking to Trevor just a couple days ago, and he was like,
Trevor Allison?
Yeah. Okay. And he was giving me some criticism on the video, like, here, try this, I like this, and then like in a separate comment, like entirely, like he waited a while, he's like, by the way, I don't like your green bases. It's like, what are you talking about? And I think like that was part of his thing was like, like when you paint the base green, like it detracts from the model, and if you paint it black, then it lets the model like shine for what it is.
It kind of makes a frame around the model, right? Like
the black or the green?
The green.
The black.
Okay, all right.
I mean, that's the idea, or that's the way it was always explained to me by some really good painters. Like it kind of frames the model and kind of puts it on a pedestal. Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, you want it to fit in with the rest of your stuff,
and that's the
right?
problem. Yeah.
So like.
Well, you could always repaint everything.
Yeah, like several hundred models, no problem. I just paint new stuff for it.
Just a different army. I mean, you're working on custodes. That's like 15 total models and 2,000 points. Okay, you could easily do that in a grade. But I mean, the first thing you notice when you look at your models, because your base is not weathered. Okay, if that makes sense. Huh. So it's a flat, static color.
Okay.
That has no. No variation to it.
It's removed from the dialogue of the rest of the piece, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So your eye will be drawn to that almost instantaneously every time. Every time I look at your models, that's what I see. But I also see the nostalgia in it when I look at it.
Sure.
Like I know what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, me too, man. I mean, I like all the models I grew up with all had Goblin green bases.
Yeah.
Like and that shitty GW flock that they would glue on.
Oh yeah.
Like the ground up sponges.
yeah, totally. So everybody's like walking through tundra.
Right. Yeah. I actually think that I always did black. I don't think I ever did green
for the rings. Really?
Well, because they were square. I mean,
you square based.
Well, the fantasy was the first stuff I did, so they were square. But yeah, I'm fairly certain they were always black.
Huh. Okay.
I mean, we didn't paint the bases. We just got the Model Scenics flocking stuff and just squeezed a whole bunch of Elmer's glue on it and then threw them into that and then pulled it out and you were good to go. But I think that's why they weren't ever green because we didn't have that.
Man, I remember the first time I painted the top of the base before I glued stuff onto it.
Ooh.
And like the difference in the color was like, oh my God, what have I been doing this entire time?
Really?
Right? Like instead of having like the black base under it, like if you paint it brown or something first. Like and then put the flock on top of it.
Oh,
like,
I gotcha.
Like that color kind of bleeds through the cracks.
I think that's a trick you learn as you go along.
Sure, right.
It's like so anybody who has obviously watched Phil's Bat Reps, you see some of his older models, and the ones that you can tell that were the first models that he had, just have the unpainted rocks glued onto the base.
Sure,
and it's like. I'm gonna subscribe 1 month for like $100 to your Patreon with a caveat that you have to redo every single base.
Does Phil have a Patreon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta sign up for that.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
No, I want to.
Did I mention that Mob Rules has a Patreon now? You can sign up to that. Just for Danny. Well, we don't actually go through Patreon because we don't want to lose any of the money.
Okay, you guys keep talking. I'm going to set this up real quick.
we call it the Ted-treon. You just give money directly to Ted right here. Every month you just come over.
Normally it'd be John.
Oh, no, I'm not giving any money to John.
Foreigner.
Yeah, America first.
You know what? It thrills me to know that John will not listen to this episode because we've talked about this in the past, and I'm the only one that you listen, but you don't because you edit it. You just kind of
totally listen to it.
Then I go back and actually download it and listen to it because sometimes I still feel like a kid again. Like I'm not part of the podcast.
Yeah. We often like to think that.
Yeah.
We can let him go at any time.
All the time.
I'm not an addict. I can quit Jabe at any time.
I'm listening to all the episodes again finally for the first time in a while. I've been going back and listening to older stuff. I mean, it's really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, that first episode was rough, where you had one mic suspended from the ceiling and all screamed at it from different areas of the room, I think is what you guys were doing. But
it was attached to our ribbon trapeze setup that my ex had in the living room. We just bat it back and forth like tetherball.
Was it a sex swing?
Well,
it could be.
Only when we were lucky. Otherwise, it's where the cats procreated.
Oh, okay. That still makes it a sex swing.
Yeah, I guess it does. Something gave birth in there at one point. Ooh. A little crusty.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So you got some new videos up,
but you will be happy to see. I don't know if you noticed that the Yada Yada Marine does have a black base.
I was really sad, actually, to see that.
Did you inhale on that one?
Oh man, I know what my favorite one is now.
That's why do you think I was so sad? I was like, he painted the base black. There's no way I could beat him now.
Why? What color did you do?
I actually went a dark brown.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's almost black, but
okay. Yeah,
I tied it in
the shades of failure.
Ground, yeah.
So once you go dark brown, you never go back.
Kind of. You don't want to go all the way to black with the Yada Yada Marines. You got to stop short. You could possibly come back from that. But you got videos up, and you're working on. You said the jet bike one.
Oh my god, the thing! Yeah, I finished the videography for that, and now the edits are going to be ridiculous. It took me 2 days last time to edit the other one. So it was just all these tiny little micro edits, and all right, we're going to paint red. It's normally a 6 minute or long painting something red. All right, stop, speed this up. So now it's only 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Go through it. Yeah, I think this was gonna be like that, except it's a custode on a jet bike and not just a custode.
I'm really like some of the alternate custode paint schemes that I've been seeing floating around. There was a white jet bike thing that I was really impressed with out of Japan. I don't know how I keep seeing all these Japanese.
I think that's legit. What quasi chapter? I forgot what they're called.
Well, one of them, one of them's white, one of them's black. And,
I wanted to do the black one, but it was after Iron Hands, no more black.
Yeah, it might be a little I was thinking this because so I also play Iron Hands.
Yeah,
and I was kind of thinking the same thing. This is another army I can dual purpose use, like in Heresy and in 40K. But yeah, I don't think so. That would be too much black, and I like black. Don't get me wrong.
It's really hard to pull off. It's really tough to.
Dude.
In a way,
so many grays.
Yeah,
it just takes time.
I don't have time for that.
I
don't have time to paint a regular miniature.
I think it's hard to get when you spend time on a model that's painted black. It's hard to get to get it to look good because I think the black just kind of absorbs the light and it's just a black blob. Ultimately, whereas if you're painting a blue ultramarine or something like that, or yellow, it's if you do nicks and chips and stuff like that, you see it because it's on the field of light.
It naturally pops.
Yeah,
so it's that much harder to make. A good-looking black army is probably the hardest army to pull off. White is tough. But at the same time, now with airbrushing, you can make the white look so much better, so much faster, without all the crazy layers, with being able to, being able to spray it, and with black, to make an army look black and people not just look just kind of glance at it and kind of okay, whatever, their eyes kind of roll right over it. It's really really hard.
Well, you want your opponent's eyes to just roll over your important black units. Not a euphemism, by the way, Danny.
Wow.
You respond. You want your opponents to be like, oh, they're just black, I don't have to worry about them. And then you unleash your iron fists on them, or iron hands. And
whatever they are.
Yeah, give them the old.
I mean, they're both are appropriate.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to, Dave?
Well, I've been working on the Yada Yada Marina. Probably put about 36 hours into it.
Going back 36 hours?
Seriously.
What?
For real?
Yeah.
Like, why? How?
Oh, dude.
Sorry, I'm not saying that like I can't believe
Because
you've achieved that with just 36. Like, but like
I was
a lot
actually.
yes, nice.
No, I put a lot of learning practices. Like I tried to pick up some different stuff and different techniques and try to practice and work different things on it. And I freehanded the cymbal for the first time. And, I sat down with a guy who does a lot of freehand work for over Twitter, and we were talking, just DMing back and forth, like, hey, man, I've never freehanded a chapter cymbal in my life. I need this to look like, not like an 8-year-old did it. So how give me some, talk to me, because I couldn't find any videos on it.
Oh, okay.
And so, your cymbal that you freehanded looked pretty good. So, hey, just a heads up. I couldn't find any videos on it anywhere.
So I should do one.
So you should probably think about doing one. I could do one, but, and I actually feel like it actually came out really well, in my opinion. But it's it's not master class. It's better than a lot of stuff I've seen. But, I like I said, I went a different way. I did the quarter, because we had said heart. And because we had originally, like, it's a heart symbol with a Y in it, so flux capacitor.
Yeah.
So I when I was talking about it, I was like, just a black Y with a red heart isn't going to stand out right. So you got the heart, carried the red quarter pattern over to the heart itself, and put the Y in it. Honestly, I feel really good about it.
Yeah.
Getting some flack from Tyson because he can't see colors, apparently. He's like, yeah, why'd you do black for the jetpack and everything? I didn't, dude. That's gray. It's gray.
Well, that kind of goes back to painting black, is that you ultimately have to paint gray, and then it's just like we tell ourselves it is black, and because you did like a really dark gray for the most part, so
right? And
it looks like highlighting a black. But anyway, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I will. Like I said, I wanted the equipment to just kind of stand out different.
I actually really dug that. I was honestly going to borrow that for the backpack on the Reaver, but I forgot.
I feel like the Primaris, it worked for this. Like, I wouldn't have done it if I just had a regular backpack. It worked for the jump pack because you've got the straps. So the straps are all that stuff. Kind of, if you do it a different color, it looks like it's supposed, in my opinion, strapped to them, as opposed to the power pack, which is part of the, if I'd had a regular backpack on it, I would have probably done a quarter scheme on it.
I just love the discourse afterwards where you're like, well, obviously I painted it black so that they couldn't see them looking down on them afar.
It's gray so that if they're in a, that's just the color they painted it because they were fighting on a moon plane. Look at my base; it's dark gray. So when they're flying above, it's like they're in water; they can't see it. When they're in formation,
you can't see the red and white marine that's attached to it
underneath.
That's where I'm going with that. I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, sharks. Top of sharks are ocean
floor
color.
Becomes more and more a copy off of the Carcharodons.
Totally.
As time goes on, like the background, like that all out, like fighting for it, like they go all out.
More hands reaching for the book, like steal shit out of it.
I enjoyed writing the fluff for that. Get to what I was like, and then, they were so awesome in this battlefield that Guliman was reported to have been like, damn, they can do whatever they want. I was like, hey, it makes me laugh. And then, when I wrote that, I was the last one to go. You guys were like, yeah, I'm going first. All serious here, flipping through the pages. This is what I wrote. It's canon now, this and that. And I was like, yeah, these guys are fucking straight up bitches, gangsters. I stole from Mighty Ducks with the flying V. It was like they go behind the big Thunderhawk and then they just flying V. And
that was the Mighty Ducks
totally,
thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
The flying V.
I picked up on it.
Okay.
So that's why I like you, Danny. You get my terrible references.
Mighty Ducks.
It's a movie from my childhood. So
I was an adult.
Yeah, I was going to say
old balls. So what else are you up to? Was that?
I finished off all the decals except
you did half of the Ultramar Cup the other day.
I managed to do a game of the Ultramar Cup.
Okay.
So I went out to no. So it was out at MJ's, which is a great place to play. But the last Ultramar Cup had 11, 12 people. So
okay.
In my head, I wasn't feeling good to start with, so I wasn't going out. John asked me if I could give him a ride back in, because I was like, okay, I'll go, and I got 3/4 the way out there and checked my messages, and John had been like, hey man, something came up. I had to go do book reading or Battle of the Books with his son, which is great. Spend time with your kids,
sure.
if you got them, do it. But I was like, God damn it. The whole reason I went to the Ultimate Cup at MJ's is so that I could give John a ride home at the end of it and play some games and have a good time. But I walked in and it was packed. And like about 30 seconds after walking in, like my front of my head just started pounding. So I played one game with
the smell of nerd.
I don't know if it was I don't know if it was like because they have all those fluorescent lights. I don't know if there was pulsing lights or something, or anything could have just been it. But like
Ultramar Disco.
Yeah. Strobe lights. I played Andrew Chambers, who had, I guess, really didn't play tournaments before.
Okay.
He had just picked up his Thousand Suns book the night before, so he was learning.
Oh wow!
Learning them.
Yeah.
We had kind of a couple teaching moments, if you will, where he basically
was that Andy Chambers texting you?
No, I was checking to see. I am buying a Death Guard army from him.
Oh, really? Right. Yeah. I saw that because he's doing Thousand Suns now.
That's cool.
Congrats!
Thanks. I'm pretty excited.
Okay. We had a teaching moment where he advanced without rolling, and I said, you know what, dude, it's the Ultimate Cup. You're good. Just so you know, in a real tournament, you can be called out for that. This is a friendly game. Just to give you a heads up. Sure. There were a couple things like that, and then I taught him about the firepower of aggressors. A 30-man squad of Zangors, I opened up a space for them to deep strike in from the webway using their new stratagem.
You opened a space for them?
I moved, set up so that you can't, if he went first, he couldn't have deep struck anywhere. Mm-hmm. And then I moved just enough stuff out of the way that the only place he could deep strike was X period right behind the aggressors.
Smart.
Who didn't move. So
how many aggressors?
72 shots.
A lot of shots.
Ouch.
30 Zangors were vaporized in a second.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Now he had.
Have you played with the aggressors, or against them?
Well, yeah, but I usually kill them pretty quick.
Oh, okay. All right. That's smart.
They haven't lasted more than Actually, so I've only played against them once, and I killed them as soon as I blew up their transport.
Oh, okay.
So there were no more.
Oh, see, now I don't ever start my aggressors in the transport. I use them as bait, to be honest. That's the best way to use them. Is just setting them on an objective. They can't hold it, and if somebody with objective secured takes it from them. But in order to assault them, you have to take 72 shots because they're not moving. Fair. The captain was standing right there with them.
Yeah,
so, although I think I rolled like 2 1s the entire thing. It was the best I rolled that entire game. And then after, it was totally expended. He had also moved one of his aspiring champions that had the little teleport crystal over at the same time with the Zangors. He said, I'm just going to move this now while I'm setting these up. I said, okay. And then I wiped his unit out. I said, now if you'd like, you can go ahead and move him back because technically he wouldn't have moved until after this was all resolved. So
no, that's not true, actually.
Well, because I have to Auspex scan it. It stops everything that's happening.
When you deep strike the Zangors, that happens at the end of the movement phase.
Correct.
So he would have already had to move the Sorcerer, and then deep strike the Zangors.
Oh,
interesting. See, I didn't actually know that in that sense. I assumed it was just the same thing as the deep strike. Dave. No, I didn't. I told him he could take it back.
Right, but
so technically I was right.
You were very nice. You were very nice to him, though.
I will. Well, it's the Ultimate Cup. It's a friendly game.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly the environment that you should be learning that kind of stuff in.
Yeah. So there was a charge phase where he was charging a repulsor that managed to actually kill some stuff. as he was assaulting it.
What was that laugh?
There's so much dice. You don't charge us. Please don't charge repulsors.
It takes like 10 minutes to resolve Overwatch.
Oh my gosh!
But the first thing
I have to keep like consulting like the list for the repulsor. Like, and what all is it out in there again?
Yeah, and it's not like in a good order. Like you have to actually refer to what your tank. Yeah, it's
just like a spreadsheet on like
to be fair,
the order of shooting with a repulsor.
Right. No, totally.
I have an order that I roll everything in. Like,
okay.
I look at the guns. At this point, I've done it enough that I look at the guns and I go, okay, I'm going from front to back, and this is what so I know everything that's going on. So I roll it in the right order. But I nuked two of his nuked two of his Thousand Sons, and he started to pull them off from the front. I said, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You want to take them off from the back. You've only got, it's a 4-man squad. Pull them off from the back. The front is a 7.5-inch charge. The back is an 11-inch charge. You basically will have just wasted everything. Do from the front. So, he did. Like I said, it was. Unless I'm playing somebody that has been in a lot of tournaments and done a lot of stuff, I will always talk tactics through the game while I'm playing with him. He ended up beating me 18-1.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Apparently, I talked too much tactics.
You could take credit for that win.
I'm not going to.
Yeah. I just gave you credit for it.
Thanks.
In my head, I did.
To be fair, I think if you actually ask Andrew when you see him and like, hey, so I heard you beat Dave. Was it Magnus? He'll probably just tell you, yes, it was Magnus. Because Magnus is a beast.
He is.
In 1,500 points.
It's technically a Primarch.
Not a beast.
No, I guess no. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
he's a monster.
Yeah,
like that's his
monstrous, monstrous creature. He did something that I didn't know you could do. I had to actually ask Nate on. He used one of his
claim other
points
kids on their tax deductions.
No, is this legal, dude? I'm a TO, not a tax. Not a TA.
Wow, that was really good.
Can't you audit this game, Nate?
I got an extra $600 on my tax return.
Thanks, Nate.
He turned one of his aspiring champion sorcerer individual guys into a beast of whatever.
A chaos spawn?
A chaos spawn, thank you. And then it put it right into combat.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that doesn't sound right. Are you sure? That's Nate said, no, that's right.
Yeah, it doesn't have any kind of range restriction as far as how far away it has to be from enemy models.
Right.
Just within 6 inches.
Which is strange because almost every single other thing similar to that says, must be more than 1 inch away.
Right.
So that it's not in combat. So he put it directly into combat with a repulsor and five intercessors.
Oh, that's slick.
No, yeah. He tied me up. I was like, oh. Okay, good move, because Araman was about to get, 11,000.
He did it to Araman?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, the guy was standing. The guy was standing next to Araman. Then the regular intercessor were going to nuke him, and then the repulsor was just going to blow Araman off his damn disc. But
sure.
But I was like, oh shit, that was really smart. I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, sure.
I would have been more than 6 inches away.
I think they do that though, just in case you get locked in combat with like a big squad, like a 30-man unit of boys, and you can't actually place him within 6 inches. That's not in combat. So like they want people to be able to use it, anytime they want to turn their guy into a spawn.
It was very effective.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Which is cool. So there's a lot of cool tricks you can do with that one. I think actually, It's not typically a great choice to do, but. I mean, because those, like the sorcerers and stuff like that, you're talking about a 120-point model turning into a 33-point spawn. So it's not a great exchange of points.
Yeah, but the spawn did work,
Sure.
Whereas the sorcerer in combat would not. I don't think would have done work. If I wouldn't have killed it, I was close enough to him. Obviously, it was 6 inches. I was going to assault him.
Sure.
I had no doubt he was going to die.
And that's totally fair. I mean, they're not a super tough unit, but. The Chaos Spawn and Thousand Sons can do some work because they have a stratagem for Spawn that lets them like choose Spawn roll on a chart to see like what kind of special thing they do.
Oh, okay.
And you can spend a stratagem point to get to pick the result.
Oh, nice.
And you get to reroll the dice on how many attacks they get because they get D6 attacks.
Oh, okay.
So that's like a really cool, like a unit of 5 Spawn and Thousand Sons seems like a pretty good choice to me. Like I would definitely.
There are no nerdlings.
You're 100% right. I am of the firm impression Nurglings are the best unit in the entire game.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm with him. I am 100% with him. I've been saying it since the Death Guard Codex came out.
Why?
So Nurglings deploy when you so normal, like a lot of times with scouts or not scouts, Space Marine scouts, but like infiltrators and things like that, like you have to hold them back and then they deploy before the first game turn starts.
Okay.
Nurglings just deploy when you deploy them, as long as they're 9 inches outside the enemy deployment zone and enemy models.
And they're troops, right?
So and they're troops, so they're objective security and take them in demons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and they have 4 wounds apiece with and their toughness 2, which is terrible, right?
Yeah.
But 4 wounds, 5+ invulnerable save, and they have a 5+ feel no pain save against weapons with damage 1.
Okay, yeah.
So damage one? It's a unit is...
right, okay, right. So like against bolters, lasguns, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. A lot of weapons, yeah.
Heavy bolters,
still only have
assault
damage 1.
cannons.
Technically, plasma guns only have damage 1.
Unless you overcharge them.
Yeah.
Overcharge your plasma guns against Nurglings.
For Dark Angels, you should be overcharging every turn regardless.
Well, but they're objective secure. They have infiltrate.
Yeah.
They're reasonably tough. They're only 18 points a base. So
that's not bad.
So like
That's
a
like
whole unit of
an
3.
intercessor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, same point cost.
Yeah.
A base of or a unit of 3 of them is 54 points, and so I feel like you get a lot with that. And playing at LVO, the guy who was playing them super good. He did like behind enemy lines as just one of his secondaries, and just hung them out behind my army kind of, or not, but like off to the side of it a little bit.
Okay.
So I would have to like divert some force to actually get to them, and I'm like, dude, I don't want to waste my time on Nurglings. I've got shit to do.
Wow.
And so, like, super effective choice. I could never get to them really, and they scored him 4 extra points. So
nice.
yeah, they were really solid.
For 57 points, huh?
For 54 points,
Yeah.
or for that, and 108 points for two squads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
And they block like other people's deep strikers.
Okay.
So you can put them out in front of your army to kind of make a screen, so that because you can't deep strike within 9 inches of an enemy model, right? So like you can push people back, so they can't like alpha strike your army with deep strikers right on the first turn or second turn.
Wow. Okay.
So a lot of utility with that unit, like a surprising amount.
Huh. Because I always kind of thought what was it, like the plague zombie guys, what are they called again?
The Poxwalkers?
Yeah. Like
Poxwalkers are great.
They seem like they're pretty amazing, but you're putting Nurglings above them.
So Gary posted an army list on competitive 40K today. And so I was giving him some feedback on that.
I really have to get on there.
And so he was asking, like, I asked him why he had so many Poxwalkers, because I think like 1 unit of Poxwalkers is probably good.
Okay.
But like, maybe 2 units, I could see some, redundancy is good and all that. But I would say that they're the second best choice out of the Death Guard book.
Okay.
The best choice out of the Death Guard book is the Plague Burst Crawler. After Nurglings.
Okay, all right.
Really? Nurglings are technically Death Guard. They're just demons.
So
go ahead.
you would place the Plague Burst Crawler higher than the Myphetic Blight Haulers?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, not even a question.
Really?
They're a little expensive. I mean, not expensive, but
I think they're
priced right.
You think so?
Yeah.
A little bit.
I don't know.
They should be 120 points a piece instead of 142.
Cause it's
They're
basically
142 each?
Yeah.
Because basically like a dreadnought. I mean,
Much
essentially,
less. That's essentially a dreadnought.
Yeah. I mean, you have like your multi-melta, you have your
Yeah,
missile launcher.
They're really
I
solid.
honestly thought they were cheaper than that.
No, they're that expensive. They're actually 2 points more expensive than a Plague Burst Crawler. So,
Yeah, no, you're right then. Because they're really only effective in units of 3.
yep. So they're really good with the new Great Unclean one. He has a bell, one of his options, and the bell will bring back from every Nurgle demon unit within 7 inches a dead model on a 4+.
What?
So, and they're Nurgle demons.
Oh, wow.
So you can bring back 142 point. Yeah.
Oh,
So by the way, that's the army that my partner and I are playing on.
Wow.
On Saturday, like we're gonna try and work that to make. We're gonna ring that bell and see how that works out.
Oh my gosh. So can you bring him in a Death Guard army, or is that allied?
So
from
you'd
demons?
want. Well, so there's not really allies anymore. You bring
Right.
They all have to share one keyword, right? So your army is like a Chaos army or a Nurgle army or something like that.
Yeah, Death Guard has the Nurgle keyword, doesn't it?
Right. So you could take Nurgle Demon Detachment. So we're taking like a lot of times I'll take like a Nurgle Demon Battalion for some Nurglings because then they become objective secured because they're not if you take them in Death Guard. Then I'll take a Death Guard Battalion or whatever I'm taking in Death Guard. Maybe a Spearhead so I can get a bunch of Plagueburst Crawlers.
Right.
Okay.
So my goal is to run 6 in my next 2,000 point army with Plagueburst Crawlers.
Wow.
So I think that'll be. There's a guy at LVO running 10.
Yeah, then people were saying they were like, that's insane. Why would you run that much?
I think that it's he had like a good list. Like I had come up with a similar concept list to that, but I think you want some screens out in front, and I think that the new Nurgle trees, the feculent.
Can you take them in 40K?
Yeah.
Oh,
they're a fortification.
Nice.
Oh.
And since they're a demon unit, you can spend a command point and deep strike them, or you can summon them. Or you can bring Slimux, the new
Snail Rider
on the Snail Rider.
Oh my god!
I'm bringing him on Saturday. He can plant a tree at the end of the movement phase.
Wow!
Within 3 inches. You have to pay the points for it, but he gets to put it wherever he wants.
That's beautiful. I love this idea that like you could create terrain and
cool.
I mean, it's so fluffy. Like with the idea of the Garden of Nurgle and everything. Like that's way cool.
He's got the garden shears on his shoulder over his shoulder. I put them together. That model has so many cool details. Like
all of the Nurgle stuff they've been doing really has a lot of cool details. Like I really love the way that the Primaris look, but by comparison, the amount of extra detail that everything they're coming out with for Nurgle is it's like, oh, well, these just look generic. It makes sense. They're Space Marines. But crap, so much work, so pretty.
I'm really excited about working. That's like my next army that I'm working on is a Death Guard and Nurgle Demons mostly, but also some Death Guard stuff. So I'm super stoked about painting that stuff. I've been building the crap out of it.
I think I was because I was working on like a Death Guard army a while back, and it was going to be like back when I think it was like 6th edition, where it was like I could ally with orcs, and then, so I had like this Nurgle-y orky Nurgle stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it was like super fun, fluffy kind of a thing. And so like all the Death Guard had big orky axes and glyphs and stuff. But of course, like now we can't do that, and so it's. I still had like a bunch of Death Guard stuff, and but I think like with the new guys, like it was almost like there was too much detail, and I didn't like that because I'm a hobbyist and I love to add it myself. So it was like I had to kind of like strip it down, I had to dumb it down in order to build it back up. But I think I finally got to the point where it's like they keep putting out so many variations and so many interesting like Nurgle figures,
right?
Like it's not like it's just like all right, that 7-man squad is exactly like that 7-man squad.
Right.
Like there's enough variety.
They're going to be different.
So I think it's changing my perspective. So
I think the lines are a little clean. That would be my complaint. Like they're very smooth, and so I see Nurgle as being like pitted and rusted and kind of rough. Yeah. And I don't think that those models have that. Now that being said, the other details of the models are amazing. Although like having a stomach mouth is like that's like a Nurgle thing now. Like Nurgle, that's his mutation that he gives you. Like if you're gonna get a mutation, it's either some kind of weird horn, or you're gonna get a stomach mouth.
Tentacle hand.
But only one.
Horn,
only one horn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, it has to be. It can't be symmetrical.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think you could also paint it that way. And I think like the shot, like the painters, like they paint it clearly so you could look at and see like the model. And I think like it accentuates that. But when I see like other people doing it online and like they actually go and put in like the strokes, like the grease dripping down and stuff like that, they kind of paint the detail in. Yeah. Then all of a sudden it changes, because that was also like another like concern I had too. It was like, this is way too clean. Like I want to see more pit. I want to see more texture. But so I guess it's up to the painter to make that happen. But yeah, I feel you, dog.
I'm not trying to be negative either. Like I love the models; they are awesome. Like they're so creative and everything. Like everything that they come out with has been so amazing.
So, if I told you that I owned one of everything that they have come out with, with the exception of the Great Unclean one so far, since the
really?
Would you be surprised by that? Because I do. I haven't painted it yet, but I own it because I want to paint it at some point in time just to have it and paint it. I never want to play it. I don't have a codex, but I've got a squad of Plague Marines. I've got a Poxwalkers. I picked up the guy with the big sexy axe. All of the stuff from Dark Imperium. I picked up. Okay. Off and on, all that stuff. The malignant plague caster guy. Hey, I don't like I'm gonna convert that a little bit. I think I don't like the hand dust cloud thing that he's doing when he's like
he's summoning vomit, Dave. It's awesome.
Honestly, it just he looks like I dream of Genie blowing sand in somebody, like he's blowing sand in somebody's eye to blind them before he slaps them with something or whatever. Ooh, and I get what they're going for. It just doesn't play for me because it stems up from the hand,
Sure.
So it's distanced from the mouth. Like if it started at the mouth, I could get it maybe.
Well, maybe
like,
he's blowing a gas and he has like a lighter in his hand and it's just like it's
just
lighting
like
right there.
It's like coming from rents in his armor too.
Oh,
so it's like blowing a stink cloud on somebody.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
Or like I don't know.
Yeah,
like
he could have been throwing a fart.
That's exactly it.
He cupped it, pulled it up, and that's what it is.
Or he just farted in his armor, right? Because and had it pump through the arm, have it shoot out weaponized out of the holes in his. I don't know, man.
That is so hot.
Wow.
Hotboxing yourself, and
that explains his sneer.
He's like his mouth is and like that like
I think I just sharted.
That's pretty good. Now I kind of want a model with just I want to cut that off.
No,
I want to cut that off, and I want to model one where he's got his leg up like he's shaking it out, trying to get that leg.
Poop flying at the bottom.
Move the gas cloud to the bottom of the cup of the armor, just like there it goes.
Perfect. I like it. So you put one of those like the Despicable Me like fart gun noises in there.
Nice.
Pretty good.
Love it.
Yeah. Tiny whoopee cushions every time I move him on the base.
New army.
Danny's already envisioning this because he's got this locked out.
Well, like you could make your unit smell like different things.
Yeah.
Like for in real life.
Oh, wow.
Like, I don't know, like Sean Bowles had that Emperor's Children army, right?
Yeah.
And he would spray every single one of his different squads with a different perfume.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
He's
that.
really dedicated.
Yeah.
That would be
so like they all smell differently.
That might kill me if I was trying to play it.
That's amazing.
Are you sensitive to that stuff?
Weird, perfumey, fake smells.
I see.
They're not real smells.
Well, but like
you don't actually smell
artificial.
something.
Febreze cover-up smells, stuff like that.
The chemical smells.
Yeah, chemical smells. It's like they get to me. So
I'm
it's
very pro chemical smell.
About it. You know what? I'm very pro chemical smell too at tournaments. So
that's one thing I noticed at LVO. Nobody smelled bad. I felt like I did not walk by any reekers, which was great.
Nobody was living homeless out of their car before LVO either. Most of them had a place to stay. Yeah. So they
they pump all that air into those things that sense it into a casino anyway. That's sensitive, right?
They saw you guys coming and they were like, "Turn it up,
turn it up." We're gonna need, sir. It's at a 10 already. Turn it up to 15. We're gonna need it.
we're gonna need Jose down there changing the filters every 8 minutes.
I think they just like they tape a bunch
Sir, we route the filters. What do you want me to do?
Oh man!
I think it just like tape like Old Spice sticks to the fans.
Everybody like car air fresheners, like anything. Like they go to the store and fill up a whole shopping cart full of any kind of air freshener thing they can get. Febreze.
End of every game, somebody's like, "Did your opponent smell like pine scented, like the pine coat air freshener?" Yeah. Did yours? He did. Weird.
It's a different culture here now. I don't understand.
And plus, when you guys go to sleep in valleys, they actually have that service where they come in and like give you that. They do the sponge bath for you to clean you because they know you're going back in there the next day because you got the high roller package, right?
I did not.
What?
Oh, you didn't get the high roller package?
No.
Oh, that's the way to go. Just get it next time. It's worth it.
You and I definitely did not get that.
No, we got the extreme low rent package. Which, by the way, I still recommend that.
Yeah.
I mean, staying in the hotel.
I love it. Like one of the first things I saw, like when we pulled up there, was like some lady going through the dumpster.
Dude, my favorite part of that place was the cat caves.
The cat cave? Oh, right. I forgot about that.
So we stayed about 3 blocks off the strip. Okay. Which, by the way, if you go 3 blocks off the strip,
it's a totally different place.
Oh my god!
Oh man, it's like
the poverty and everything. Yeah.
Oh no, it was totally dangerous, but not for us. Because we were fearless.
From Alaska.
Yeah. Like we went walking.
Spinard. I got this.
We went walking.
Yeah, I'll show you dangerous.
Shit, son, we grew up in Spinard. What do you got?
Everybody listening to this is like, I don't understand the Spinard.
It's
hyper local for you.
Yeah. Spinard is like Compton if Compton was actually dangerous. So
also
there you go.
hipsters.
Yeah. Well, now it is, but it wasn't when we were growing up.
It's just a shithole.
What is
offense.
Thanks. We're sitting right now.
As we're sitting in Spinard.
There goes
house is
our
really
three
nice.
Spinard listeners.
As I have a broken window in my garage door, like part of the Visqueen still hanging from the ceiling.
Danny, this is, I don't know if you know this,
But
my
thank you,
role is
Danny.
actually to alienate our listeners by making fun of certain areas. So you're kind of stepping on my toes there a little bit.
Hey, I'm sorry, man.
I think it cost us a couple Australians, some Scots, definitely all of our Asian listeners at one point in time. It was pretty bad.
Okay.
But
I'll let you take Spinard. You can take that bullet.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm so confused with this logic train.
We stayed in like a dangerous part of town. Like there were cops busing people all the time. We walked to a Thai food restaurant like another block and a half away, and we had people being like, "What are you white people doing out here?" Just going for Thai food.
I counted 4 busts within that walk of like 3 blocks.
But we didn't care because
For what?
4 busts. So like cops had like arrested multiple 4
busts.
Yeah, I shouldn't say busts, but yeah.
I'm like, I usually count
Daddy's
out
like,
more
I was
busts
on the
than
strip. I counted like 7,000 busts.
that. Let me tell you.
I was collecting cards.
Oh man. Oh.
Isn't that crazy?
We sat outside and drank for like maybe like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like just on like in like one of the little parks or whatever out in front of the casino, like on the strip. Mm-hmm. So many random people just trying to sell us stuff or get us to go places. Like
really?
And like so bad. Like I was told I was going to hell at least 3 times. Anyway.
Yeah, no, you're good, Danny. You're good. It was more of a oof. We've been going for a long time without an actual break because we had that fake break. But
no. So yeah, let's take a quick break and we're just gonna do some Emperor's Children painting competition.
Let's do the painting competition.
Yeah. So we got our numbers up, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's take a break. Man, my old lady's so moody right now. I hate that time of the month.
Not me. I buy generic tampons. They clean up all that gross lady stuff, and she's happy because we've saved money.
Wow, generic tampons. I'll have to give those a try.
Damn, I can't believe I lost another game. All of my dice are rolling once.
Quit the whining, man. You should change your cotton.
Another rending hit! Thanks, generic brand tampons.
Generic brand tampons, not just for ladies. For a limited time, send in 6 applicator sticks for a free dice bag.
Knows what a full load is,
Oh
Danny.
yeah, I'm sure he does.
Now that we're recording, you can tell us all about the full load, Dave. So anyway, we have. It's good to see you guys.
I
Thanks
take
for-
a part-time. I take a half a load.
That's all you need.
That's all I need.
And
I
you get
carb
the salt
load.
content for the month. No, I'm good.
I gotta drink a bunch of Gatorade after that.
Gotta worry about gout.
We're back. All right.
Now we're back.
All right. So last month we challenged you guys to paint up 2 different sections, 2 rounds of our War on Gray Plastic challenge.
That was awesome. And I totally aced the crap out of that and beat your ass.
We haven't.
At quartering.
Did you? What?
What?
What? Different things.
Oh, whatever.
My quartering is actually better than yours.
Oh my god.
We're back to that again.
All right, so this part is for you guys, the listeners who
See,
participated.
here's the great thing is like John was supposed to paint one too, but instead John's not here, but Danny's here instead. So
I did not paint one.
yeah, he failed.
I did listen to the
can talk
episode.
shit.
I feel like that's
Okay.
a pretty good contribution.
I appreciate that. Could you download it like another 2,000 times?
Gotcha.
and paint the model, and then come back and talk to us.
You don't have to paint the model, but
Dude, why are you gonna be undermining me?
yeah.
I don't want to paint a
We
model.
would be horrible co-parents.
See, we really would. Go to your room. Don't go to your room. Damn it. You're
No
grounded.
consistency.
Let's go out for ice cream. My 2 dads. Worst sitcom ever.
Yeah.
Ted and Dave and Danny, their kid. Daddy's getting grades, but not ice cream. Wait, no, yes, ice cream. Let's go. All right, I lost it. What?
Is that a song? Or
it was.
That was a really good song.
All right, so
this was John Williams type shit.
Scoring. So I want to give so we've got entries from, and I'm going to butcher these names, guys, very, very badly. Get back into it and wrap it up. Shun Tien Yu.
Okay, so you got the same list that we have then.
Yep, I printed it out for you, so you have it. That's good. You've got the same list I do. Albert Stewart.
Well, it looks like Danny's doing his scoring right now.
No, I'm scored.
You scored? All right, you scored.
I've scored.
I actually gave Danny a pre-scored sheet. So,
really? This is what your scores are?
Basically, Dave gets 2 votes.
Yeah. Isaac Layfield, Justin Woody.
Wait, what are you?
I'm just reading off the names because we're going through it. I'm not just saying, hey, guys, great job.
Okay.
Greg Howard, Russell Priest, who is one of our UK listeners. Christopher Stroker, Ryan Gossage, James Faulkner, Tyler Miller, one of our locals up here, of course. Chris Cornell, who painted a taller tank apparently with only like one hand or something. Andy DeVoe, who's another guy up here. Nobody really knows him. Heard of him. Probably never been.
Not worth
and Curtis Stepson. Guys, you all did a great job. You should give yourself a round of applause. I mean, obviously, not everybody can be a winner, for this, but in my books, you're all winners because you completed the challenge.
You just participation awarded everything.
You just totally cheapened the entire thing.
I did.
Seriously, it's like LeVar Burton all of a sudden reading Rainbow shit. You're all special. Look at that.
Learning how to paint. It's in a book. It's in a video. All right. So that aside, let's do some scoring here. We did a 10-point scoring. And, we scored each unit differently for each entry if you had 2 entries.
Okay.
We
really should have. I thought about like creating a spreadsheet so that we can import all these.
That would have been really smart.
Yeah, but it was either that or actually score them.
Yeah. So I'm going to read off.
I only had time for one.
So I've got a top 5, and we can debate about it as we see fit. My number 1 was Albert Stewart's Harlequins. You could pick either one. Really, they were pretty much identical as far as paints go. I really liked them. They were clean. They were nice. My number 2.
Real quick. Do you want to mark? So he had 2 listings for Harlequins,
right?
Are we ranking? We rank them independently, right? So like for me, his second one was better than his first one.
Absolutely,
right? And no, yes. Was it the second one or was it the first one?
I don't know if the picture was just a lot better.
I think it was just a better picture.
But fortunately, that counts.
That's a large part of
we
this.
have to go off of what we see.
But the blending and the shading was a lot better on the second picture. You can get a better idea of that, I feel like. So if the first unit is the same standard, good job. Well, first of all, good job either way. They were both beautiful units.
Yeah, they really were.
So you had the Harlequins at number 1, and that was a 10-point.
Oh, you're right. The picture is way better for 2.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying with the checks?
Yeah.
Like the checks look a lot better in the second picture.
Yeah, it's just because it's washed out in the first with the light.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a decent picture, but the other one is,
so
you could really tell what's going on there.
So for my number 1 overall winner is the round 2 Harlequins for Albert Stewart. Okay. And then my number 2 overall.
And this was, are you going for like 10 points at this point? Or?
I didn't actually get anybody at 10.
Oh, okay. I usually do that too, where it's like 9 is the best, and then 10 has to like come over, make me dinner, give me a blowjob.
These Harlequins were nice, but I didn't even get a goodbye kiss after the date. So,
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, so I ranked them 9.
Okay.
In fact, it was a 9.7. It was pretty close as far as, but just judging by the picture for me.
Okay. 9.7, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now we're into the points again.
Jeez, that's like really specific.
Yeah.
I did a 0.5 to break it up.
I had to give the points in there because I have people at 9s and the way that I rank them. So
you didn't want to do 10.
Oh,
right.
Okay. It didn't kiss you afterwards.
Chun Tien, whose name I really apologize. I'm butchering it terribly. I know that's not how you say it. His tax squad was 9 for me.
Okay.
It was really clean. It was just really really good. I can't say anything bad about it. It it wasn't the Harlequins. So he's at a 9.5, so he's down a little bit, but it was really good.
Wow. You're right up in there with like the shades of gray.
Really?
Okay.
I liked Ryan Gossage's Ogren. There's something about it. It just appealed to me.
Okay.
It was a pretty good. It was a good paint job. That's my number 3.
Okay.
My number 4 is Curtis Stephenson's Howling Banshees. I just liked them. They're textbook looking. They could have used a little bit more highlights to the hair, but the bases were good. They look good. They look clean. They look great on the tabletop. The only thing that, like I said, they highlights on the hair, but they're pretty good. And then last but not least, Chris's tank. Okay, I like the tank. I couldn't put my finger on it, other than the conversion and stuff that were done to it. There was something about it that I just couldn't put my finger on that didn't flow for me with the paint job.
Did you figure it out?
No, I haven't figured it out. And I, like Danny, you didn't get to see the video. Like he has a video where he spins the whole thing around. Yeah. And I had to take a screenshot of it to just kind of do something with it. But
sure,
it felt like it was missing something, and I couldn't put my finger on it.
Okay.
So those are my 5 ranked.
Okay, so it seems like the highest one was the Harlequins, the second one, right? And then the second, your number 2 was the
Tactical Squad.
The number 2 was the Tactical Squad.
Okay,
the Ultramarine Tactical Squad.
Okay,
as much as it pains me for an Ultramarine Tactical Squad.
God knows I hate Ultramarines.
Oh jeez. And then you had the Ogren was number 3.
The Ogren was number 3.
Okay. And then, oh gosh, what was the other? Oh, you had the
number 4 was the Howling Banshees, and then the Talaran tank.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so the tank was number 5.
My honorable mention goes to Isaac. It's a good looking model. It didn't feel finished.
Oh, okay.
Even though it,
Yeah. So. All right, Danny, what you got?
Okay. So I also had the same number 1 as Dave.
Okay.
Harlequins number 2 by Albert were really, really well done. The checks were nicely shaded and highlighted.
Yeah.
I actually, so to be critical.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I felt like the black was a little flat. Oh, but but we talked about that a little bit earlier. It's really hard to do. So, I mean, I give a little bit of pass on that. But everything else was really clean. The metal on the guns was really nice. Everything was well defined. Like it looked really slick. The bases were also really good.
Okay.
So I ranked them as an 8.5.
Oh, okay.
And so the Harlequins were number 1. Number 2, I actually had a 3-way tie for number 2.
Oh, that's high.
I ranked all of them at 7.5.
Okay.
Okay.
Who are those?
So I had Isaac's Great Unclean One because the color palette's really nice. The contrast is really good. I like some of the details that he's done with the washes. It looks really good. I also felt like Mr. Yu's Ironclad Dreadnought was really well done.
Oh.
I actually ranked it better than the Tactical Squad. I think that the base could have been done a little bit better. It could have used a little bit more contrast, maybe some static grass.
Yeah.
But the weathering was really good. The highlights were very neat and well painted. So I like that. I like that quite a bit.
I could see that. I think a larger model on the base like that definitely needs a little bit something more. The smaller base, you can get away with it.
Totally, yeah. But if you're on a 60 millimeter, you need to have something on there that's not a part of the model that's different. So it has to be like a rock, some grass, like in a interesting way, or like a corpse, something like that. Would really, all that really helps. Or battlefield degree, like some ruins.
Like as you bring these, things up,
just your standard basing stuff.
But it's kind of interesting, like
rebel corpses.
We do these things, and like when we build like the bases, we put the rock on there, we put the logs on there, we put like the corpses on there. Like there's definitely things that like we often do, and like without like discussing it. And so it's interesting to hear this thing, like this dialogue that we have with our models, like being discussed verbally. Like it almost like as you speak it, like it almost sounds like it's like base clip art.
Yeah, no, and like that's
the clip,
that's accurate, right?
I mean, it's totally it. We all do it. We all
Pieces
do
of sticks to look like trees.
Space Marine helmet.
That,
a dark angel.
Make sure it's a dark angel if it's a corpse.
Exclusive.
That's for you, Phil.
Phil doesn't listen. He's too famous now.
And so the last on my my three-way tie would be Chris Cornell's Talaran tank. I really liked the model on the back. I felt like it was nicely painted. I'm sorry, not on the back, on the top, because it's the guy. He's like Al-Rahim or whatever. It looks like that guy, or Lawrence of Arabia, surfing on the top with his cloak billowing in the wind.
Yeah.
So when he submitted that, he was like, I hope Ted gets the name and likes it. And I'll be honest, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need you to explain it to me, because you were like, it's hilarious.
Well, so it's not on the model itself. Like it's actually the file name.
Yeah, his file name when he submitted it.
Which is?
Like Telda Ranin or something like that.
It's Ted Orani. Yeah. That's my name is in the beginning.
Oh, okay. Well,
it took me a second to look at the model. I was like, I don't understand that.
I want to re-rank. I'm going to move the Talaran tank down below DeVoe.
Because of the pun?
Just because of the blatantly throwing it at Ted.
Is pandering to the audience.
Yeah, pandering to the judges.
That's funny. All right, so looks that's interesting. I think the Harlequins are.
All right, so for the sake of this, because we have a first, second, and third prize, actually.
What about mine, yo?
Well, no, but I'm just saying.
Can I get my last choice?
Oh, okay. Yeah, go.
Oh, you have another choice?
Oh, do you want me to rank the top three that are tied?
You're gonna have to. Either that
okay. So if I'm gonna rank them, I'm gonna rank them the Great Unclean one.
Mm-hmm. Number two,
number three, and I would do them in the order that I listed them.
We ought to do this with points, because this is kind of the point we have the points for. So real quick, Dave, you have the Harlequins at 9.7, right?
So if we're doing by points, 9.5,
and then we're going to add up the points.
Yeah,
and then that's how we'll determine who
okay,
goes first.
That's fine.
So then, what did you have, Danny? What did you have for the Harlequins?
8.5.
Okay, 8.5. All right, and then it looks like the 2 was not tied, like you guys. So,
like if I have to choose, like I'm giving you the order in which I would choose them.
Okay, it actually looks as though if we do this by points, So what did the Dreadnought get
from me?
It looks like So what did you guys get for the Dreadnought?
I would say the Dreadnought was a 7.5 from me.
7.5, and you
and I gave the Dreadnought an 8.5.
8.5. Okay, and then let's see. Number 3, you had the Unclean one at how many points?
I also gave the Great Unclean one a 7.5.
7.5. What'd you give it, Dave?
I gave him a 7.5 as well.
7.5. Okay. And then the Ogren. What'd you guys give for the Ogren?
Well, he didn't give the Ogren anything.
I gave it a 6.
Okay. Oh, booyah! What'd you give it?
I gave it an 8.
Okay. All right. So who were some of the other big ones?
The tank.
Oh,
so
okay.
The tank. I gave the tank also an 8.
And I give the tank a 7.5.
Okay.
And then the other one for me that I ranked was the Howling Banshees, which was... So I gave you the Dreadnought, but I actually gave the TAC Squad a 9, and the Howling Banshees also got a 9.
Okay, TAC.
I gave you the Dreadnought score because Danny has the Dreadnought.
Gotcha. Okay, so Tactical, the squad was 9. The Banshees was also 9. What'd you rank for the Banshees,
6.
Danny? 6. And then the TAC Squad?
The tactical squad I ranked a 7.
Okay. Who else scored high on here? Okay, I think.
And I gave Isaac. I gave the Great Unclean one. What did I say?
7.5.
7.5. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just grabbing like the people who, for those of you who ranked, for those models that were ranked in your top 5. looking for scores on those.
Ted's tracking. This is amazing radio.
I know.
He's sweating actually right now.
I gave the Harlequins.
Well, you can go to the Harlequin. We'll
8.
let you do that.
And then the Dread, I gave.
Oh, you're just going to go right through.
I'm just going to go right
through.
Danny
what was your 5th one, Danny? Did you?
Oh, I was going to do probably the Howling Banshees.
Oh, okay. Would you?
So.
Oh, you already.
All right,
you already
gave
that's
them
6. Okay.
All right.
All right. So the Unclean one, I gave a 9. The Ogren, I gave a 9. Chris Cornell's Tank, I gave a 7. And then the Banshees. Let's see. Where was it? The Banshees. Damn.
Do you need a picture?
I lost it on the squad. Like I wrote it down next to like the name of. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I gave that one a 6.
I gave you a sheet with the names and everything.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at it.
All right, so we're going to tally up the score here.
Yeah.
This will be exciting.
Okay. I don't know.
really
I actually didn't
nail-biting.
write down
Yeah.
what.
Who's going to win?
I'm stressing out right now a little bit because when I started this in my head, I was like, I'm just calling the judge. I don't give a crap what Ted said. But then Ted was like, "You're out of mob rules." I was like, "Never mind, it's cool. We can all vote on it. Be a democracy."
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
does he give you a lot of ultimatums like that?
oh, totally.
That's pretty much the only one.
I need my foot rubbed.
Or you're out of mob rules?
That's not an ultimatum. He knows he can just call on me for that at any time.
I need the floor redone in the basement apartment.
So just
and
calls
my
on
That's
me.
a thing that happens.
It was a thing that happened. He actually just asked. It wasn't was I even? No, I was part of mob rules then, kind of temporarily.
He wasn't holding it.
I wasn't official. I wasn't official then. I had done like 2 episodes.
How many episodes have you done now?
This is 69.
6.
Well, then there was the fabled Lost episode.
This is episode 69.
This is officially episode 69. which is
That's why
why
we're
we
doing it
were-
with children.
Poor John.
I know he was excited about it.
You know, he's under the
I get
weather.
excited about 69.
I'll be honest. I'm less excited about 69 these days. I'm old. I don't have time.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't have time for that
short
shit, dude. We've got like 8 minutes tops before somebody comes knocking on the door, the dog kicks it open, or the phone rings. You know, we're old people. It's bing bang boom. Let's go.
You're just trying to get your time down.
Yeah, she's like, I thought this was supposed to be a quickie. I was like, everybody else thinks that is a quickie. What are you talking about? You know, brag, humble brag right there.
Yeah,
you like that?
I saw where you're going with that.
But seriously,
It was the longest 6 seconds of her life.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, my daughter listens to the show, so I can't go into anything more. But you know, there was fornication before I came over tonight. We had a 15-minute window where she arrived and I had to leave. So you know,
Yeah.
Got to make use of those windows.
You gave her a hug and that was it. And, like we fornicated.
yeah.
She gave you a kiss on the cheek.
So Ted, when a mommy and a daddy love each other very much, they sometimes give each other naked hugs.
All right. So okay, I got the numbers down, and it looks like the Harlequins won.
The round 2 Harlequins.
Right. Okay. So 26.2 was the total score for them.
Nice.
It looks like the Great Unclean one got second with 25 points.
Okay.
And then we're going to third places.
3rd place.
All right, guys. So we're at the mud rustle over this one because there's 3 23s.
All right. Which ones are the 323s?
The Dread, the Ogren, and the Tactical Squad.
2 of those are the same person.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, but I think the Tac Squad is better than the Dreadnought. But how did you of those two? You're the tiebreaker on this. Was Danny with Dreadnought and I went Tac?
I went Ogren. So
No, I mean on your scoring of those two, which did you score higher?
Oh, I went with the Tactical Squad. No, I didn't actually. They're both the same. They're both 7s. They're both 7s.
Damn neutral bastard.
So here's the thing. Like, yeah.
Weeks of neutrality in here.
All right,
Yeah.
so we have a
get
first place, a second place, and a third place,
And triple thirds, yeah.
and triple thirds. Mm-hmm. All right.
That's great.
So
2, 3. So, should we go back?
But 2 of the thirds is one person.
That's right. Only one can win.
Well, rather than trying to sort out a scoring between the Tacs, the Dreadnoughts, and the Ogren,
Yeah.
why don't we call them
text John.
co-winners
Or
and
text
do
John.
2?
Oh, he's not going to answer. All right, I'm going to text Phil. And I'm going to ask him if he likes Ultramarines or Ogren better.
What time is it?
Just
It's like
flat out question. Ultramarines or Ogren? Which do you like better?
That's right.
1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
He's up.
Really?
No,
is he a night owl?
All right.
It's not like he's doing
Hey,
anything.
Phil,
got a-
comma, I need a hand, period. Tell us if you like Ogren, comma, Tactical Squads, comma, or Dreadnoughts better.
Great
period.
radio texting.
Yeah, really. Voice to text.
Yeah.
There's no way that says Ogrins and Ultramarines.
And I didn't use an Oxford comma, so that shows...
Fucking monster.
I know.
It's
not proper
will
APA.
filter that right out. It's very proper.
No comma, just delete it.
That's right.
No, Phil has a Discord that he's running for his Patreons. So if you knew about his Patreon, you could be part of the Discord.
Yeah, well, I just used his phone.
No, I know. I don't. I was given access to the Discord.
So what
wasn't
did
given
first place
access.
win?
First place will be receiving a $50 gift card to. So that's Albert.
Okay.
So we got to figure out where Albert is.
Congratulations.
A $50 gift card.
Yay! Congratulations, Albert.
A Mob Rules.
By the way, I just lost my shirt. Thanks, Albert.
Jeff the Custodes T-shirt, and I'm going to show Danny a 3D sculpture made by our local 3D artist.
Don't hand him the phone. Just
got
make
to.
him look at it from across the room.
Why can't you just message it to me?
I don't have your. I guess I could.
Jesus.
Just look at it.
That's good.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a 3D printed orc skull that is actually finished, but I
Well,
haven't
it's
had a
not a
chance to pick
skull,
it.
right? I mean, it's a head.
No, it's a full-on head, 3D printed out
With a skull inside of it.
That's painted.
Usually heads have those.
Well, no, this is plastic. There's no skull in there. Although that'd be really cool. That's how it was
illusion.
3D done.
You broke the illusion.
At least I think it's plastic. I don't know what is filament. I don't know, it's rope. Twine? Yeah. This is made out of twine. It's an orc twine skull trophy. There you go, Albert. You've won that.
Twine?
No. Filament. 3D printed
Somebody
filament.
You got an orc knit skull.
You know what? You know what I want now more than anything? I want an orc, one of those Viking hats with the beards, but instead I just want like an orc jaw,
like
a metal
iron
orc
god.
jaw. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but yarn.
Well, yeah, it'd be
of
really
yarn.
crocheted.
It's alpaca.
So Albert, congratulations, man! You guys were awesome.
Yeah.
Isaac, great unclean one, also awesome. I know where you shop, so I will see you if you listen
At Fred Meyer.
Yeah, I will see you at
Buy you some
Tier
milk.
1. I'll put $25 of credit on your account there.
Okay.
And then Chun Tianyu and Ryan Gossage.
yeah.
I'll message you guys and get your address, and I will send you either your choice of Jeff the Custodes t-shirts or one of the original Mob Rules t-shirts if you prefer that instead. If you already own Jeff the Custodes, last thing I want to do is give somebody a double up on a shirt like that.
Well, they can
They
re-gift
wear
it
it
to
2
somebody
days in
else.
a row.
Yeah.
Or like Ted 5 days in a row.
I was gonna say 2 weeks in a row.
We're gamers, Danny. What are you talking about? I've been wearing this sweatshirt for like a month.
Yeah, I haven't changed these pants in a long time.
I sweat far too much for that.
Fair. Plus, newlywed. You don't want her to, leave you yet.
Almost.
It's been almost a year.
Has it almost been a year?
Yeah. I guess.
You just went on your honeymoon earlier this
9
month.
months.
Well, yeah.
9 months.
Right?
Okay.
Our marriage is a baby.
Yeah. So you can't abort it at this point. It's infanticide.
Well, you can in some states, but just you have to get there first. All right, so congratulations, guys. I will post this up.
That's why we invited you. All right, well, let's take a quick break and talk about some Emperor's Children.
I'll message you guys, and we'll get addresses. We'll get you taken care of. Thanks again. I'm just like, fuck, I had to fight so hard to get through 2 sentences with you guys.
Yeah.
Well, on the plus side,
Yeah.
I don't have to correct you about the Legion thing again.
Oh, totally going to go
yeah.
off of it again, yeah.
We're going to do that again.
So it's almost good that we lost that whole last part. And
I'm going to call it a company until they get the reinforcements from Chemos.
For Christ's sake.
It's just a company at 200.
sorry, listeners.
Are you actually recording
Oh
right
yeah,
now?
yeah, we're recording now. So
Okay.
I wanted to record to let everybody know that we actually did just talk about the Emperor's Children, and now we don't have to.
Right.
We're just going to start with
To summation, to finish up what you were talking about, Danny, he had 2 penises and turned Islamish. So that's it.
That's what the double eagle stood for, was the 2 penises.
See, now it just sounds, now it's forced, Danny. When it was organic early, it was funny.
It was great. So it was the funniest part.
So it was a record we had. We lost out on a ton of stuff. We got to laugh. I apologize, guys.
Right, there were no hanger.
Danny was streaming tears.
I cried.
Should have been there.
It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
So, Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children. Fulgrim grew up on Chemos, which we want to talk about Chemos for a second.
I wrote their name down wrong.
You wrote Chemos down wrong?
I think it was like
that? It was like CHEMOS.
I think it was like beeswax or something like that because I was listening to a video instead of reading.
That's smarter. I should have done that.
You were listening to a video?
Yeah, Vaults of Terra. I mean,
Vaults of Terra. What?
No, never mind. I don't have to cite my sources. I read all the books.
Could you cite your sources, please?
The Vaults of Terra. All right. And one mind syndicate.
So Chemos is
when you're multitasking. That's what you do.
Wait, okay, is it Chemos or Chemos? I have no idea.
I don't know. I mean, chemicals.
I feel like it's Chemos because of the chemicals.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Chemos is
Chemos is a planet that gets separated.
Although when we first talked, it was Death World, then it was Agar World, and then it was a Hive World, and then it was whatever Dave. Basically, it was a roulette.
Basically, it was an industrial world that, because being cut off through the Age of Strife for so long, had developed themselves into a system where they literally were just making enough to survive. They're basically like current day, like a big current day country that might have like I don't know, like 1 billion people in it or something, maybe,
and one dog
and a dog. So the Fulgrim arrives on the planet, and they have a unit of enforcers that goes around to make sure there aren't extra people because like they literally are working 24/7 just to make enough food.
It's kind of like when China used to kill like the second born child. Is it kind of like that?
Sure.
Except in this case, it was the first kid found in the street.
Right. So they go, and that's basically what they do is they go around and kill the extra babies. So there's an extra food.
There's one laying around.
So this rocket pod of
Hot Pockets tonight.
Of a baby drop pod.
Baby Hot Pockets. God. I mean, we can't prove that that's not what Hot Pockets are made of now.
You know
Just kidding. Just kidding, Hot Pockets parent company.
So much for that sponsor. I was working on my Hot Pocket bit too. Damn it.
Oh, wow.
What is that, a modest proposal, the Hot Pocket? Like, so that's the flavor?
Is that what it is? Fulgrim's,
is that what, or is it no, it's a modest proposal, right? That's the paper the guy wrote about eating babies and...
Whoa!
In England?
No, what was that? I didn't hear about that.
Really?
Is it a real thing?
Yeah, it's like that's like a classic, man.
Oh, really? Damn,
I'm gonna look that up.
All right, when did they write that?
Like the 1800s.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing this. We're doing this again.
We are doing this again.
Swear to God, if that recording button is not on, I'm smacking you in the head. So while Danny is looking up something completely unrelated to anything except making sure that we'll never have Hot Pockets as a sponsor.
Wow. And also, while you're at it, find out who does it.
Yeah, it's a modest proposal by Jonathan Swift. It was.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on.
Written by Fulgrim.
I'm sorry. Originally published in 1729.
Oh shit!
It's satire.
Oh, okay.
But sure? It's 1729. It was probably fact.
Yeah, but I think they were making fun of people who were all about
poor,
like
eating children.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're like, you guys are so ridiculous. Here's what you may take. Like, I think it had to do with social Darwinism.
You can eat the poor.
Yeah,
nice.
Because they were less good than the rich because they were.
Poor, well, wouldn't you want to eat the rich babies?
Yeah, rich, no, because rich.
I mean, they would be rich. Sure.
Waka waka.
Yeah,
this is flavorful.
I can taste the breeding.
That's a dry rub, actually.
Yeah, it sure was.
All right,
so this baby shows up on Castellax.
Didn't eat Chemos.
Damn, dude, you messed us up.
Chemos.
So this barren agricultural planet gets a tiny baby Primarch Fulgrim, though not named Fulgrim at the time, lands.
Steve.
Is found by two people, the child abductor guards who find him. One falls in love with him immediately. The other puts a las pistol to his head to shoot him.
Romantic?
Yeah. But he I think he doesn't he like twist into like he comes from light and turns into a baby or something like that. I think I heard something about that on one of those videos that
Really?
I don't know, that's what one video said.
Okay.
I could have
I mean, it's not like people make stuff up for views or anything.
like us.
Yeah.
No,
we don't like any of that. This is fact.
What?
The light coalesced into Fulgrim.
And then when he touched the ground, a well sprung up out of the earth,
and a plant grew,
which is bad because it was toxic water from the planet. So like 1,600 people died around it or something. But
what a dick!
So they go
in his perfection. He kills
some,
many.
you lose some. I mean, that's
the two people.
They probably didn't pay the taxes.
Imperium anyway, right?
End result is
now much of other people can eat.
Right. I hate you so much.
Sandwiches. Thanks, Fulgrim.
So that has been episode 69 about the Emperor's Children. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mob Rules. We're going to talk about other stuff now. All right.
So he gets
50 years. He takes over he ends up taking over the planet, but not in like a bloody coup like everybody else did. He just kind of goes
like a president or an executive.
Yeah, he literally just kind of goes.
He kind of reminded me of
worked his way up.
Gilliman in a way, like I think he was more
except pretty and less of a bitch.
Okay.
Word.
Okay.
I'm not an ultramarine fan.
I mean, Nick,
all right.
Nick
just to establish.
You know what? I know you're not listening, Nick Baton, but if you do, I didn't mean anything bad about Gilliman. That's Danny. McDevitt, it's MC.
DEVIT. I hate Gilliman. He is the worst. He's the most pretentious.
His social security number is 574. How
did you know?
That's like everybody in Alaska.
Yeah, it's the same. We all have the same social security number. What are you talking about?
Yeah, just the 3 numbers. There's not many of us up here, so we share it.
Yeah.
So the Emperor shows up here. Man, we are not 40K'ing very well this time. So the Emperor shows up. Fulgrim, rather than having to face challenges like most of the other Primarchs, the Loyalist
drops to his knee and just
challenge the Emperor,
undresses him.
But like you said, Danny, that didn't get recorded.
The
traders all kind of.
Right?
The traders all kind of are just kind of, whoa, damn, we're really impressed by you.
With some notable exceptions.
Mortarion.
Like I think, Mortarion fought. Well, and I don't even know that he fought, though, really, because he was like, hey, let's go take out my fake dad.
But he didn't. But it wasn't like, and it doesn't have to be a challenge of a fight. But it was the fact that he went further than Mortarion. Like Mortarion went up so far, and then he passed out. And then the Emperor was like, "Motherfuck this! I don't even have my face mask on."
Yeah, I don't have to take this shit. I'm gonna go kill your dad.
Bam! I'm your real dad.
I'm your real dad now.
I'm your real dad. So Fulgrim immediately drops to his knees, seeing perfection in front of him, as he's always tried to attain perfection. And
sure,
the Emperor's like, well, that's good. Join us. He introduces him to his 200 legionnaires,
legionaries,
and then they've organized into kind of a chapter.
You kind of like choked a little bit.
Chapter-like formation.
Chapter-like formation.
Yeah,
it's not enough to really be a.
Okay,
it's a group of dudes.
Let's talk about this. So a chapter can be part of a legion.
Okay.
But if it's all the guys if it's all the members of a legion, then it's still a legion.
Agree to disagree.
Oh my god!
So he meets
the internet to find this out.
He meets his 200 of the Third Legion.
All right.
At
next episode, what is a legion?
Yeah.
I mean, technically, there's a definition for a legion as a number of people.
Yeah, it's
or in this case, Space Marines, because Space Marines aren't people. But
Space Marines are people too.
They're freaks. They're genetic deviants. I mean, to a degree.
They're not deviant by their own design.
No,
well, it doesn't have to be by their own design.
I mean, they did choose though to be Space Marines.
I think you know what I don't know that if you go down to a recruiting world and you're checking out stuff at you're in Necromunda with your recruiting for your Iron Fists or whatever. The dude for the Iron Fist comes down. It isn't like, how would you like to become a Space Marine? Side note, you lose your dick. I think I'd be like, I'm good.
I don't know. It depends how crushingly oppressive, underground Necromunda is.
Well, let's look at it this way.
Be an Imperial fist.
The Darkwing Darkwing Duck. The Dark Angels Terminators, prior to them becoming Deathwing, recruited from an agricultural kind of Native American planet, that they.
I'm pretty sure that's been retconned.
I don't believe you, and I don't give a shit if they retcon all they want.
Because that was like the original Dark Angel story with like Slinking Weasel and like.
Oh god,
like that was his name.
Slinking Weasel was my nickname in high school.
That's what your girlfriend called you. I always said no, but Slinking Weasel.
I didn't want to have sex, but Slinking Weasel did. So
this reminds me of an Ice-T album.
but they went down and recruited the finest braves that would, come up and talk to this. And so there's everybody has ways of recruiting, but they see these as like super amazing to become this way. If they really told them what the undertaking was going to be, rather than being like, okay, excellent, come along, I think you'd find a lot more people would be like, no, I'm good. You know what I mean? I would have to think about it seriously.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
well, yeah, but when you're like 12,
I'm not packing heat, but I'd like to keep what I have. Sure, immortality, but let's be honest. You see titties all the time on demons and all sorts of weird stuff. Kind of like to be able to use something.
Yeah,
maybe that's cybernetic for the Iron Hands.
Maybe it could be. I don't know. Pneumatic, like a jackhammer.
So just a big.
We're talking about Robodecks.
Iron Hands. They don't tell anybody, but they've got a Sibian.
Right, I'm not. First of all, I'm not even going to be drawn into a debate about whether or not Space Marines have penises or not. I don't want to know. It's not important.
They don't. It says they're
chemically castrated.
Yeah, they don't.
Chemically castrated is different than having no dick. That just means you take pills to suppress your urges and you're impotent because of that. That's chemical castration.
Or, burned off with acid is also chemical castration.
If you want to take, technically that could be correct.
But no, there's no technical about it. If you burned your dick off with acid, that is a chemical castration.
That would be a literal chemical castration. Technically, in a technical term or technical sense, I think what Danny's saying.
Look at me, I'm an IT guy.
Jesus Christ.
Seriously.
All right, let's talk about.
So the Emperor's Children were a thing.
Yeah, let's talk about the Emperor's Children.
But they weren't the Emperor's Children. They were just the Third Legion, as they were called.
Well, so when did they get their name?
Yeah.
They didn't get their name until after the Battle of the Snake People.
Yeah. That we discussed.
The Snake People came later.
I know, but I couldn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
So anyway,
I had the battle written down.
So real quick, one of the things I thought was kind of interesting that we discussed earlier that nobody got to hear but us was that the Emperor's Children were of the 200, they were all nobility, right? So I think kind of going back to
from Europa. You were correct. Right. They were from Europa, but is near. I believe that Europa was actually the moon rather than.
That's what they're referring to.
Yeah.
Because in the part that we lost, I was right. So whatever is right, that's what I said.
Okay, sure.
So,
so
this is the continent.
So that's a moon.
Okay.
It's no moon.
God. Spank yourself, Dave.
That would fit. That happens.
Yeah. So and that's really interesting. I don't know that they've really gone into what Europa is like itself, but like we were saying a little bit earlier, or on the previous unrecorded section, one of the interesting parallels that you can kind of draw to that is like the Custodes, they recruited all of their applicants from noble houses that had defied the emperor. As part of their deal, they would take your firstborn son, make him my bodyguard, and. Yeah, that was kind of a rough thing. But that's a high level of recruitment process if they're only taking noble children from these.
And I think
there's
there's there seems to be a consistency also with the Custodes, because I think they were saying whereas a Custode is a one man army, they're supposed to, they don't fight interdependently. They might show up on the same battlefield and be fighting for the same cause, but for the most part they don't work in tandem. They're their own separate thing. So whereas I think the Emperor's Children too operated that way. They were more, when they showed up on a planet, they weren't the shock troops and they would fight in formations. They were show up align everybody else to fight, and then they became the emissaries. I mean, they would too, but more so than other chapters. So they weren't as much so as the Custodes, but they would often act independently.
So I liken them more to kind of a very serious, they were tied up with the Sons of Horus because they were so small. Okay. And that's what Fulgrim learned all of his stuff, right?
This isn't boding well.
When they go into battle, it's Fulgrim and Horus together, and I viewed it more as Horus and Fulgrim were using those 200 as kind of like elite shock troops, to sneak around and kind of take out the command from the backside, while Horus engages from the front and does a bunch of stuff like that. Like they're the A team to the Horus's army. Well,
the H of the B's.
They're the Green Berets of the infantry troopers, if you will. Kind of, to look at it like that. Some sort of more specialized elite unit that does stuff.
Joe.
So they were noted as using a lot of jet bikes and a lot of super fast attack things because their numbers were so low that they could that they had a higher concentration of quality war gear. So they were able to utilize their low numbers in a way that when it was more effective.
When you're supposed to have 1,000 troops, and you only have 200, each guy can kind of be like, you know what, I think I'm going to take the blue jet bike today.
Right. I'm going to have 2 melta-guns.
I want 2 power swords. I'm going to take this power sword to my other power sword so it's really long.
This one's for my other eagle head cock. That was an amazing joke that you all missed out on. But we're going to try and bring it back.
It's not going to work. It's not organic now.
It's not. It never really was.
So
it was organic. Pleasure sake.
So the Emperor's Children fought a tactical battle that did something very famous in recognition for this. The Emperor gave them the right to wear the Palatine.
So real quick, that was after the Emperor almost died through use of void weapons from some mutant whatchamajig, and that was like
at this point I no longer care. I just want to get through this part of the paragraph.
But I think that was kind of interesting. That the one person who's going to defy the Emperor ended up saving him. At one point. And he became
Well, I mean, he wasn't planning on defying him at the time.
Well, of course, but
he was trying to become him because he was absolute perfection.
But I think that one of the things that I think is neat about Fulgrim's story is there's so much irony. Everything is kind of led up to he's put in these positions to be so vainglorious. He's put in these positions of where he's put on such a high pedestal. He's putting everybody on such a high pedestal that it's inevitably going to fall. So anyway, so that's.
Sure, sounds good. So the Emperor also gives him the name the Emperor's Children. All right, we moved along.
Hey, so I figured out why their gene seed, it wasn't just a genetic defect. They had a disease.
Swear to God, if this is a two-dick joke.
We're going to cause the gene seed to grow 2 small penises. Just kidding.
Only one had an eye.
They had a gene seed blight in their gene seed stores, and they lost most of the gene seed. But their gene seed was one of the most perfect gene seeds.
Oh, okay.
Obviously.
Right, of course.
There was one other chapter that was under strength. Who was that? Was it Raven Guard or?
So there was never a lot of Thousand Sons because they had the flesh change problem.
Yeah, but that wasn't until later. It wasn't right off the bat. It wasn't
No, they had problems right off the bat. Like they had a lot of people mutate, and so before they even met Magnus.
But that's another Legion for another time, though.
Sure.
Right.
Chapter for another.
You know what? We shouldn't have said Emperor's Children episode because we've talked more about everything else from Custom to Iron Hands to Thousand Sons.
We're 69ing all the topics.
Yeah, we're doing it all the while. We're doing it doggy style. Me, Danny, and Ted are forming an Eiffel Tower around your knowledge. All right.
So I think they were all dressed in purple for also kind of going back to the idea of the nobles and stuff like that. So that was another instance where I think they were kind of
they adopted the purple after the Emperor's Children name and the gold.
Yeah, the Proxima betrayal was where they saved the Emperor because those anti-imperial rebels attacked them with vortex weapons. Pew, pew, pew. Right. The vortex weapons can kill the Emperor, apparently.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody.
Eventually, Horus probably.
We'll start getting the vortex grenade war gear for all my orcs now.
Yeah, you should learn that with second edition.
Again.
Right?
All right, so that has been Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children. So we've got He becomes the best tactician next to Horace, and sometimes even better. They would say even better. Gives that up and goes and becomes a
tactically perfect.
Yeah.
That's a local thing.
It's a great group of guys.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah,
so-
it's a bunch of local guys.
Oh, yeah. Great team. They've
Good
done a
guys.
lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So he becomes an artist and learns that he wants to learn how to sculpt and paint and write poetry because he's suddenly a bitch.
He brought a lot of culture to his planet too, from what I understand. Like he brought,
Yeah, but
was
not
really interested
after
in
he
the arts.
left. I mean,
Well, before he left, right? Before he
So
left,
didn't he have to invent that?
yeah,
Thing?
he had
Yeah,
to invent
basically.
it because it didn't exist.
So that just tells you, like, the depth of his mind, right? I mean, that he could invent art.
Or that the seed for Slanish had already been placed.
Yeah.
I mean,
He had to go through the warp to get there.
art is
Chemos not only went through the warp, it was basically
okay.
24/7 cut off from anything else, just an isolated pocket by itself.
was there
a
like
real
a warp
space.
storm that's around?
Always cut off. That's why they had nothing, and why it was such a shithole
I
planet.
really
and they
need
just
to read that book.
it's good,
Yeah,
you
I'll
read it?
definitely read it.
huh?
Did you read it?
Yeah, of course I read
okay.
it.
I try and read.
That's why I have actual notes.
Wow, you read a book.
That's why I have actual notes and not just my standard entry stuff that I plan to update Lexicanum with later. Because I write it. So, and basically his drive for perfection is pretty much what led to his downfall to Slanish. Because, Slanish is all about that and getting in your head and working that. Given that the way that he was, I would go so far as to say that he was, even if there hadn't been a heresy, he would have been part of Slanish at some point in time. He would have fallen to Slanish.
I would almost agree, and I think that he kind of like led to this point. But I think there was an interesting part where so he immediately befriended Ferrus Manus. Like they became instant friends. I think because they both kind of like pursued perfection in a lot of ways, but differently, right? And because I think like they exchanged best friend weapons. It was great.
I think they were just like,
It's like
dude,
those
this is so good.
Pete, like rockets that like link together.
I like that they went
You
down
get a
into
hammer,
a
I
forge
get a sword.
on Terra and just were like, all right, I'm going to make this. It's like, I'm going to make you the best weapon ever. I'm going to make you the best weapon ever. Let's see what we got.
Wins.
And then afterwards they were like, dude, did we just become best friends?
Yeah.
We just,
So they're super
you want to move
besties.
in my room?
They're super besties for a long time because like, was it Daybringer or whatever is the sword that Ferrus Manus made him, and then there's like the
It's Firebrand.
Firebrand. Okay,
the sword.
and then so he uses that like
Forgebreaker.
Forgebreaker. Yeah.
Was the axe and
No,
it's
it's
hammer.
a hammer.
hammer.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Hammer.
So eventually, like he's going along, and then he finds this sword, the silver sword, right? Like he's like, oh wow, this is even better.
So they go to this planet, fight a bunch of snake people that modify their bodies with like cybernetic and like biological enhancements
To become
layer.
perfection.
That's what they're called. LAER, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
And so they and so they have
to
like
achieve
different
perfection.
warrior clades that like have different like they will have different setups for weapons and things like that. So he finds this sword in like a temple there that's like pre their civilization. Like It's so old. It's probably some kind of like Eldar crone sword or something. I mean, who knows?
Probably
like, where
was.
it's from. Yeah.
Yeah.
except it has a demon in it.
Correct. It is full of demon. Chock full of demon. So he picks it up and the sword starts
Worst
talking to him.
breakfast cereal ever.
Chock full of demons.
With marshmallows.
Chock full of your daily dose
Tastes
of
like
demon.
babies.
Again with this.
Hot Pocket. Was the Hot Pocket in the first recording
think
or
it
the
was.
second recording? Damn it.
No.
Was it the second?
It's, I'm pretty sure we talked about Hot Pockets.
Okay.
I guess we'll find out. Huh?
Yeah, when I listen tomorrow, I can't wait. It'll be like a whole new thing. Which half hour at the end of the episode? It'll be
Some crazy time warp.
So he gets his sword and starts talking to him. He puts away his the firebrand, right?
Right.
And and this is kind of like where we start to see like the switch to like the new Fulgrim. But I think like one of the things, like he goes back, he's talking to Horus. Horus kind of feeds him a bunch of shit because he's like he sees that he's kind of going loopy. He's like talking to paintings and like ranting all
like all good artists do.
without the use of drugs. And so
He's just naturally-
like Harris
I don't know that.
or Horus picks up on this and is like, all right, we got to use this to kind of sway him to our side because like at this point I think like Fulgrim wasn't full on But he finally brings him over, and he goes, and I think he's supposed to, was it the Istvan massacre or before this, where he goes and confronts Ferrus Manus?
It was before. It was after their campaign together, where they fought it was like a spaceborne amalgamation of like humans and aliens. Like it was like a confederation, like the Federation.
Okay,
but like they like the Iron Hands and the Emperor's Children spend months and months chasing these people down, and then eventually kill them. And meanwhile, and actually, I think before this, Fulgrim gets warned by the Eldar. I think that's kind of an important thing.
Eldrad.
Oh yeah,
because my boy Eldrad, like my favorite character in 40k lore,
is Eldrad.
Yeah, is Eldrad. Oh man, hands down. So.
The dog just stole your keys.
Oh,
it's going for a joyride.
Yeah. Hold on just a
Yeah.
second.
All right. So is that where he sees Ferrus, and then or no, he slaughters all the Eldar that are with Eldrad, right? Like,
yeah, but you can't kill Eldrad.
Yeah, so Eldrad gets away, but he kills all the Eldar, and basically like, yeah, I don't give a shit.
Because he has plot armor.
Eldrad's kind of like the artist formerly known as Prince.
He's the game master.
Prince. He's just kind of
40K universe,
just like really fast.
Right. No, I mean he's the one who tells people what the rules are, right?
Yeah.
So Eldrad is like, hey, Fulgrim, like you need to stop Horus because he's going to betray the Emperor, and Fulgrim's like, what? You're crazy, and he starts to get really mad and start listening to the sword. The sword's telling him, no, just kill all the Eldar. So Eldrad retreats. They pull an avatar through a webway gate. And Fulgrim beats the Avatar after the Avatar is attacking not Fulgrim but the sword itself.
Oh wow!
Because it sees Slaanesh and the sword, right?
Okay.
And so disarms him, and then Fulgrim chokes the Avatar somehow. I'm not really sure how you choke like
a piece of molten
right, and it burns his hands to the bone.
Wow.
And he ends up regenerating. All of that later on. But yeah, chokes out the Avatar with his bare hands, which is an impressive feat.
That is good. So maybe there is hope for Dorn. He just regrows hands.
Sure. I mean, you could, like, Primarchs, it seems like can regrow, like...
Yeah. A head.
Yeah, unless they're decapitated.
Right.
Unless you put
it could be alive spiritually.
Right. Yeah, that's
He's downloaded himself into the web.
He's part of the Matrix.
He's Ferrus Manus.
Yeah.
Part of the Matrix.
Yeah.
He is the Matrix.
He is the Matrix.
Right. So Eldrad escapes because plot armor.
Yeah.
Avatar dead. Fulgrim choked him out or whatnot. Or Ferrus Manus.
So what does he have to fight with Ferrus? Is this where
that's at the end of that campaign. He just like beams him over the head with a hammer, right?
So he beats the shit out of him. He breaks forge breaker. Fuck, whatever, his hammer. And I think like he's about to kill him. He's about to take him out. And this is where I think like he's there is still like a semblance of like humanity left because he's like, whoa, wait, what the fuck am I about to do? Like this is crazy. Right. He starts like looking around him and like all the chaos that his chapters performing or his legion, and he kind of like he refrains, but the demon in the blade like leaps out of his hand and kills Ferrus, and decapitates him.
No, that's way later, dude.
What? I thought this is where
we're not even at the heresy yet.
He beams him over the head with the hammer.
Spoilers.
Jeez. Beams him over the head with the hammer, and then like is about to kill him and realizes like, whoa, man, this is not cool. Like I'm gonna take off. Right. So drops the hammer, leaves the hammer there, and then books it out of there with his bodyguards. Well, I think his bodyguards end up killing all of.
We're using a lot of pronouns here. Ferrus Manus is not the one that leaves. Fulgrim's the one that leaves.
Yeah. Fulgrim leaves after knocking out Ferrus Manus.
Now, was this before or after he convinces Ferrus Manus that the other legions are like plotting against Ferrus Manus? Because I'm lost time-wise right now.
Okay, so he tries to... Horus has already influenced him to turn against the Emperor at this point in time. He's trying to get Ferrus to turn against the Emperor at this point. Mm-hmm. Like, he's trying to convince him to join the side of the traitors.
Because he knew that they were good friends.
They were close. There was a close bond there, and that if anybody could convince him that Fulgrim could, and he can't.
Yeah, but Manus actually went moderately to war with the other legions for a little bit. Like, hey, dude, why are you talking shit behind my back? It was Salamander's Raven Guard, and
so Ferrus dashes ahead without the rest of the Iron Hands. He only takes the first company, which is all Terminator armored. So previously in the rules,
stupid. Then they're really slow.
Well, they're really fast because he takes the fastest ship and leaves all the rest of them behind.
Yeah, but Terminators.
Yeah, 4-inch movement.
Yeah, they're really slow.
And the cataphractic armor.
So they have teleporters sometimes, so they can like teleport down to the battlefield, and then it doesn't
9
matter.
inches away from the enemy.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's still going to take them 2 turns to get there.
Not unless you roll those 9-inch charges.
Yeah, you got to reroll. Use your shot at command points.
I think Ferris's Warlord trait allows them to reroll.
I thought Ferris's Warlord.
Just kidding. Primarchs can't have Warlord traits. Everybody knows that. All right.
Knowledge bomb.
Bam.
Gotcha.
All right. So Ferris does this thing. They
races ahead with all of his Terminator bodyguard. Right. So later on in previous editions of the game, Iron Hands actually couldn't take Terminator squads. They could only take Terminator champions because they lost most of their suits of Terminator armor.
Oh, interesting.
In the Istaban massacre. Huh. So they could only take him on squad sergeants. Like that was their special thing. They could take a sergeant with Terminator armor. So anyway, yeah, that was kind of a little factoid. Yeah. Anyway, so they go there. They're getting slaughtered because Ferris is trying to he's just powering ahead trying to get to.
Is this at the Istaban massacre?
Yeah, this is at the Istaban massacre.
Okay.
I don't remember him getting into a fight with anybody. See, he's saying that Fulgrim was still good. He might have though.
So it was right at the very beginning of the heresy that he convinced Ferris because they were such good friends that hey, these other they're jealous of us. They're conspiring against us. Go take care of them. Go smack him around a little bit because Ferris Manus is a pretty big guy, and the rest of them are not so much. Obviously he wasn't like, hey, Magnus is talking mad shit about you. You should go smack him up. Ferris would be like, not back then. He couldn't.
He was just big. He was big. He wasn't strong.
He's like a big teddy bear.
He was.
I think kind of. Actually, yeah. I would say, yeah. He's like a big nerd.
Toads with nipple horns. It's cold on my planet. Really fucking cold.
It's fucking space Egypt, dude.
All right, so the Istaban massacre happens.
Sorry.
Ferris Manus thinks that Fulgrim's with him. They know where the traitors are. But the problem is that Fulgrim's actually not with them. He's just supplying information towards to everybody else at Istaban. So they go in and they've got their shit. They're dropping down because the traitors know where they're coming in. They're just like,
they have all these defensive lines and they're ready to.
It's just set up. They're just ready.
Yeah.
So they're getting slaughtered, and they call in reinforcements. And Fulgrim is like, "Here I come!" Stab. And that's where he gets fucking nuts and starts beating the shit out of him and almost kills him as you were describing.
Yeah.
Ted.
Okay.
As you were describing, Ted.
Right.
So
previously, he gets. Yeah.
Previously on Mob Rules, Ted spoils the heresy.
By the way, I just like to make a small quibble about the cover art.
Yeah.
Of the art of that particular situation because Manus. Fulgrim looks cool. He's got a sword. He's jumping in the air, about to swing down and cut off Ferris's head. And Manus has a goddamn wrench.
Oh,
it's a big wrench. And nowhere in the story does he have a wrench. His hammer is not a wrench.
You don't know that.
He's like a spanner. Who brings a spanner into, what has he got, a club? That's his weapon?
It's a power screwdriver.
I've always thought of him as kind of like Mr. Fix-It, he's the Scotty of the Imperium Enterprise.
He has a bunch of servo arms and stuff though. He can use that to fix stuff. Why does he need a wrench?
It's his lucky wrench.
I'm sorry. I know that this is a stupid thing to get stuck on, but I really
no, Danny. There are no stupid things to get stuck on here at Mob Rules. The whole thing is stupid.
You're in the right place.
You're in the right place. If you want to explore that for a little while, let's go ahead. This is already like a 3-hour episode, as near as I can tell. I'm looking at the time right now. We're good. People stop listening.
Part 1, Part 2.
Yeah. Well, if we were good.
Episode 69A, 69B.
But I think one of the things going back to that is that he did have that. I think he had that after Ferris died. He because I don't think he killed him, right? It was the sword that killed him. And I know it's guns don't kill people, people kill people.
Where's the the line between him and the demon is it gets crossed at some point because the book at the end of the book Fulgrim, it makes you think that actual Fulgrim is trapped in
Dog just throwing
Keep
up.
going. You're good. You're good. She's not throwing up on you.
Fulgrim is
She's heard the
trapped in a
podcast
painting
before.
that he's made.
She's giving your keys back.
Oh, that's good.
Just kidding.
Well, we're so far.
So there's a blur between Fulgrim and the demon, right? And then that was like I think
Like in Fulgrim, it made you believe that, like, oh man, he's not himself. He's totally possessed. He's locked in this painting, like trapped. Like he doesn't want to be doing that.
oh that's right,
stuff.
yeah, the
But
painting.
then they release a novella later on. These are both books by Graham McNeil, by the way.
Okay.
They release a novella later on. Spoiler alert. He was not actually trapped in the painting. He trapped the demon in the painting. It was him the whole time.
Huh.
Bum, bum, bum.
So maybe the summation.
So we're done then. Let's wrap this up.
Well, from what I remember, the summation was that, and I guess like you read them, I'm guessing, right? Or,
Yeah.
Okay, so I got the impression that it was like he was trapped in the painting as he got crazy, and then I think like the almost killing of Ferris like pulled him out or something like that somehow, and
Sure,
and then the demon was trapped. I mean, you obviously read it, so But from what I remember, they were saying like that was a point where like it's like those like all the Disney movies where like the good guy turns bad. They're like, remember me, remember love. We're gonna use love to bring you back. And then like, oh, you're right. Love wins the day. And then I think he like changes his perspective. The sword kills Ferris, and I think he's like so wrought with guilt and shame that Slaanesh is like, all right, man.
Just let's go. Yeah, let's go.
I can give you eternal oblivion, so you don't have to feel this shame anymore. What was that kind of about?
I mean, I don't know that like I felt like he was just like, I'm just going to go with everything Slaanesh has at this point because I have nothing left to lose. So like I might as well lose myself in all of the ecstasy and all the feelings and everything else. Yeah, the feels that he has.
So we get we cruise on through as he's turning right to the battle on Terra, the big ass battle on Terra. The Emperor's children were present on Terra, but they didn't actually assault the defenses of Dorne. My favorite part of this was instead they chose to just absolutely slaughter the fuck out of all of the surrounding cities in just an absolute orgy of unfettered cruelty.
Yep.
Okay.
Like they just were like, ha ha!
They just went slave taking and like
just going
killing
nuts.
people and
raping, pillaging to the highest degree.
So which ended up in an interesting thing because they the White Scars, instead of like defending the palace, which they would be shit at anyway because they're not a static they're not a defense force.
What are you talking about, man? I always just sit my bikes on the table and don't even move them. Works great every time. It's a tactic.
Put them in park. Saves a lot of money on gas.
Yeah,
it's for the 5 up or the toughest 5.
T5, man.
When they sit, they've got jink, right? Is that what the deal is?
I think that's how it works. Yeah. Ask Phil; he knows. Yeah. Only Ravenwing have jink anymore.
Yeah.
So
currently,
true.
So final battle slaughter. Interesting things. The White Scars.
So the White Scars go out and they're hunting the Emperor's children down in like the ruined cities of Terra. So they're driving around, killing them, and so they don't actually participate too much in the actual defense of Terra. I think they do some sorties and things like that, but they ended up mostly fighting the Emperor's children, is my understanding.
Yeah, but that's still the defense of Terra because
technically you're correct. Yes.
Crushing and destroying all that around there basically leaves Terra in ruins.
But they don't participate in the siege.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
right.
Instead, they made it so that nobody else could rise up and join in and help out. Like, hey, we got to fight. Instead, they were all getting fuck slaughtered.
It was either a brilliant tactical move or just pure.
Well, because you remember this at this point in time, Terra wasn't the shithole that it is now. It was a shithole, but it was less of a shithole. Like the people were still, loyal and I could see the people of Terra picking up arms and being like, stupid, here's my pitchfork to your chest or whatever it is.
And, if you throw 1,000 peasants at a Space Marine, I mean, you might kill him.
I don't know. I think if you threw 1,000...
wave.
he probably wouldn't die, but he'd definitely be done for. Because, I mean, he was not going... Well, I mean, you know what I mean? If you got 1,100,000 pounds of peasants laying on top of you because you killed them all... You're still not going anywhere. Yeah, you're incapacitated. Eventually, power pack goes out. You die.
That's what we
Strat.
All right.
Then Horus slays the Emperor, and the traitors win. End of the heresy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds legit.
That's the
before it was
alternate.
retconned.
Alternate ending.
So the Emperor
who you ask, right?
slays Horus. Nobody else was injured, though, in the whole fight. So
not even Sanguinus.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Technically, from what I understand, that's what might be actually happening.
He's just sleeping. That's right.
Everybody's just sleeping.
It's a nap.
Everybody's
It's
sleeping.
it's like a soap opera from the 90s. It's like
That's what's happening right now with Primarchs. The
all
way
my
they're waking up.
Primarchs. Your twin.
I'd probably.
Sanguinus.
I was never dead. I was alive the whole time. Dun, dun, dun. So the traders run. You know, they break and run. But the best part is they break and run. Is most of the traders were just like, fuck it, get out of here, we got to go. We'll get back to the Eye of Terra. We'll call it good. The Emperor's children ran in like a zigzag pattern, just fucking up worlds.
Sure.
In more, you know, like every place they went, they just raped and pillaged everything and summoned demons, you know, and then left. They were like, here you go, demons, have the planet, bye.
Okay.
You know.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. So, you know, that's what I got for them.
And don't forget that on their way back out, Fulgrim kills Guilliman, kind of.
Ooh, Stasis is him.
Yeah, he slices his throat with a sword. Guilliman tries to go for I'm
trying to remember.
When does he become the demon?
It's on the way. It's on the way back.
Oh, okay.
It's before the siege.
Oh, is it before?
Yep. It's detailed in the book Angel Exterminatus. Him and Perturabo go to an Eldar crone world, and he ends up like trying to basically suck out Perturabo's power. And this is after Istvan, but before they get to Terra.
Okay, continue.
Anyway, so they fight a bunch of Eldar constructs, a bunch of Shattered Legions guys almost end up killing Fulgrim, and then Fulgrim gives Perturabo like a lodestone that's supposed to be like a protective thing, and he wears it because he's like, oh, you're my brother, I believe you. But it ends up like being something that he uses to bind, that Fulgrim uses to bind Perturabo.
Okay.
And so is sucking out his energy to help fuel his ascension.
Oh wow.
And so he totally lies to Perturabo, like tells him they're going to go find this really cool weapon, and no, they don't. He's just doing it to become a demon prince.
Okay,
to become more and more like that. I'm trying to find it. He was freed from his demon skin and during a battle, like he was hit. He was about to die, and instead it burst the energy, and he was just like, check it out, look at me, I got
Snake
extra
boy.
arms, and I'm snakes.
Yep.
But I can't remember where that was.
Flash of light, just like he arrived.
Oh wow! Bookended. Alpha and the Omega.
What?
It's that prelude coming full circle there.
He's now in the perfect form.
Yeah, I really want to find it though because I can't remember where it was that it was. So continue on while I find this information that I really want to.
Okay, so he turns into a snake guy. Siege of Terra happens. We've gone over that. They through the scouring, they're getting chased back to the Eye of Terra by the Space Marine legions. He manages to keep. Oh yeah, and he kills Guilliman, which is his best move.
See, I think I thought it was with the fight with Guilliman that he was turned into he became the demon because Guilliman was about to beat him, and he was like, surprise!
Have you read Dark Imperium? Because they go over that fight in Dark Imperium, actually.
Of course, I've read all of the books possible, Danny. I have not read any. Where do you think I'm getting this information from? Is my knowledge, my vast knowledge of all of the books written by people. It was Guy Haley who wrote Dark Imperium. Okay, wasn't it Guy Haley? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was. I think. Pretty sure it was.
So that was the Primaris. Guilliman's back from the dead.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh, we're supposed to do a review of that one at one point.
Not. Yeah, you were supposed to do it, but not with me.
What?
It was before me
Was it?
that you were going to do it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway,
beside the point.
Yeah. So Guilliman like tries to go to like kill him.
Yeah.
And fails.
Oh, okay.
Well, Fulgrim goes, with the sword. That's a technical noise. And slices his throat with poison, and like he falls unconscious.
Oh, okay.
stasis field and blah, blah, blah. We're not talking about the Ultramarines anymore, though. I mean, besides how much they suck.
And you have said so much about the Ultramarines at this point. At this point, this has become, there was White Scars.
We got to go back to the Iron Hands.
It's a cornucopia. We basically,
we can get back there.
We didn't 69, the Legion like we wanted to. We basically formed a Legion orgy with this podcast.
I'm going to say it was a train.
It's true with the
train on the fluff. Yeah. So, after the scouring, they're getting chased back to the Eye of Terror, right?
Okay.
Fulgrim manages to mostly keep his Legion intact until they end up fighting. So, I'm trying to remember if the Legion really gets broken by Abaddon, because Abaddon crashes the Vengeful Spirit into the Emperor's Children city after they make a clone of Horus.
Right.
Or if it happens with the World Eaters when Karn set an entire, it's like Scabelthrax or whatever, where he sets a bunch of buildings on fire because there's like acid rain or something like that going on. And so the World Eaters are fighting the Emperor's Children. They have to take shelter in these buildings, but Karn's like, you guys are pussies. I'm going to set all these buildings on fire with a flamer to get you guys out so you'll fight.
That's how he lost his sleeves?
I think that's how, probably.
Okay.
No, I think he lost his sleeves at Terra probably when he died, and then came back to life somehow.
Oh.
And we're not talking about the World Eaters, though, Ted.
Sorry.
What was Mortarion thinking at this point, though, when that was happening? Was he doing anything?
I don't know. Who cares? He's boring.
Oh wow, he was a emo little goth kid, metalhead. Anyway, so when do we get the Noise Marines?
So the Noise Marines actually happen.
They were always pretty much always there.
Well, no, not when they were loyalists.
Yeah, no, they had them as loyalists.
No, they didn't.
Just say yes, no, yes, no.
The cults happened. Marius Varsovian, I think is his name, is the first company Lord Commander. Anyway, the Emperor's Children flagship has like this really bitchin' opera house in it.
Oh, okay.
And so he starts working with one of the Remembrancers, who's like this super good piano player, to create this ultimate symphony.
Oh, okay.
And so they make modifications to these like these sonic.
Noise Marines were right before the drop site massacre.
Yeah,
the Esteban massacre.
And so they end up playing this symphony that like starts summoning demonettes into the crowd and stuff like that. And so that's like when shit gets like crazy on their ship. Like all the normal people are dying or becoming slaves.
Oh wow! So the Noise Marines are in a way use their weapons to summon demons.
Well, and I mean that symphony was like different,
special,
obviously, but like they were killing people with the noise, and that was summoning like demonettes into the crowd.
Oh. Yeah, that's dope.
It was crazy. That book was Fulgrim is like a great book. I highly recommend reading it. It gives you a really good rundown of the fall of the Emperor's Children. That's basically what the whole story is.
I mean, they're basically falling from the very start.
Right. Right.
I mean, but it's one of those things where you can read you'll see what you want when you read the book. Like for me, it was, I knew they turned to chaos, but like from like the beginning, you could see this pride and vengefulness, and it just the way that he was always striving to be better. It was literally, we covered that in the Slaanesh podcast.
Yeah.
Like it was literally like the epitome of Slaanesh. It's like they took Slaanesh and were just like, look, we need a Primarch that is just going to do this one thing that Slaanesh loves, and we'll call it good. He'll be fine.
Okay.
And then we'll surprise everybody by letting him know that he's a Slaanesh Primarch at the end. And it's like, if we'd done a Slaanesh podcast and then somebody told me about Fulgrim and I read it, I'd be like, well, that makes fucking sense. It's exactly the Slaanesh.
Okay.
It's like word for word, somebody just changed Slaanesh to Fulgrim, So, yeah, I mean, it's a good book. It really is. And by that, I mean, I might have gotten the audiobook from somebody to listen to, because I don't like to read. Fuck that. I'm busy.
Okay.
I spent like 100 hours on that, quarter marine. So at this point, I didn't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. So you got the Noise Marines were used in the Drop Site Massacre. Cacophony, as they were called then, rather than Noise Marines.
Yeah. There's a special rite of war in the Horus Heresy called the Cacophony.
Okay.
I think that's actually what the unit is called. But they have like
it was at this point in time. You
just
call
you
it.
take the cacophony, like you get a bunch of benefits for noise marines.
Right. Oh, sweet. Cool. So, what are other key points before we call the?
Well, obviously you got the Phoenix Guard,
but
were the elite unit of Space Marines that he used. So they
were Terminators just with spears.
Oh, okay.
They were just badass. They had the Brotherhood of Palpatine Blades, which were champion level people who dueled and trained and challenged each other regularly. Like they had a hierarchy ranking system kind of like thing. They were continually dueling, and if you lost, you moved down, and you moved up.
And that's kind of like where they kind of follow the brand of Lucius.
Yeah.
I mean, Lucius is probably the Lucius the Eternal.
Mm-hmm.
Is probably one of the most famous Emperor's Children after like maybe Fulgrim.
Okay.
I don't know. I think he's more famous.
Eidolon.
You know.
Yeah. Or Eidolon. Sorry, whatever his name is.
No, I think you're right on that. I could never. Most of these times,
Eidolon.
Dude, most of the times you see a name and it's just like, fuck, they didn't really want you to do anything, to think about this. You can't even say that name. Fulgrim's easy. They're like, hey, Fulgrim's your guy. Just focus on him. We're going to throw fake words at you in a minute for names. Don't try to remember those.
It's like the auto-generated passwords.
So, yeah, and they were actually used in very, very serious guerrilla strikes. Like they would send them out. 1, 2 at a time, and basically as like assassin, wipe out like a command squad and then leave without being caught. They were
stealth Terminators.
No. The Brotherhood of Blades were just dual wielding.
Right.
They just had badass swords and like no armor. They were basically scouts if scouts didn't suck. For Space Marines.
If scouts could scout.
And then they had, of course, the Roaring Blades, which were the Imperial troops. Because Fulgrim was so good, he was given command of almost every single Imperial regular troop at the time. And so naturally they were like, well, Fulgrim's going to Chaos, so are we. So they went with him. So those are your really important units, if you will.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, I'm tired. Let's wrap this up.
That's Emperor's Children.
This last half would have been awesome if we'd started at the right time.
They strove for perfection, but ended in just disarray.
Yeah. It's really is a Fulgrim's story, and the story of the Emperor's Children really is like a good tale of like going for too much and then get it, like the tale of Icarus. You got too close to hubris.
Yeah.
Too close to
I don't remember that Greek tale. Which one is that?
No, that's what it's called.
Yeah. All right, well, let's take a break, wrap it up, and all right.
Earl Hagen was a legend. In 1960, he whistled his way into Hollywood and into our hearts. Decades later, he made a comeback, lending those lustrous lips in the 1980s to such bands as the Scorpions, Guns N' Roses, and Pat Benatar. A half-century after his humble beginnings, he's at it again. This time without cumbersome musical accompaniment, he'll have you wetting your whistle and whistling along. His new album, Earl Whistles Disney, is sure to be a hit with all generations. Order now and receive a bonus album, Earl Whistles More Shit, a collection of previously unreleased material of Earl's favorite songs through the years. On this bonus album, he demonstrates his newly mastered technique of inward whistling. Order yours today on compact disc or double-length cassette. Also available at fine retailers such as Walgreens, CVS, and participating Sam Goody stores. Earl Whistles Disney. Buy it today.
Just wanted to be an architect. His dad was like, no, you have to be a warrior too. Like Lorgar. Lorgar just wanted to be a priest. He didn't want to be a fighter. Poor Lorgar.
Just let him find their own passion. The dad pushed him into the wrong thing.
Right.
Yeah. Listen to your children.
Magnus didn't want to be a warrior. He just wanted to be a scholar.
Mm-hmm. With pointy nipple horns.
Yeah, sure. Maybe not.
Guilliman wanted to rule like 90% of the galaxy.
He wanted to be the emperor.
Before he met the Emperor, because he'd already done all that stuff to organize Ultramar and get it like the surrounding systems and stuff.
Sure.
I mean, it's probably the least dickish move.
He had 500 worlds before the Emperor even came.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
how much did the Emperor have at that point?
Didn't matter. He's the Emperor. He had all of the worlds.
All of them.
Okay, they just weren't his.
I can tell you he had at least 500. Because as soon as he showed up, it was like, hey, what's up?
All right.
These are mine.
Well,
yeah, that felt pretty good.
Yeah, that was Emperor's Children. That was some paintings, and that was LVOs. So,
yeah. Good recap on
that. Thanks for going to LVO for us.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'll go for you guys anytime. You guys should come next time.
I'm trying to go next year.
Good.
For sure.
I think it was like...
If I don't get roped in also going to Adepticon.
Yeah. Oh, you got to do Adepticon.
Oh, yeah. Those are both cool. I've been to Adepticon, too. That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to... Like, Kurt and I are going to try to go to the UK this year, so...
That'll be awesome.
Yeah. So, when are you going? You're going in April?
I'm not telling you in case you want to try to go with us.
I'm not going to go with you.
Piggyback on your vacation.
Hey, what's up? We decided to take a cruise with you and your wife.
You thought it was going to be rest and relaxation, but nope, just dick jokes and farts.
It's Ted and Kurt.
Oh God!
Great. It would be. I'm sure it would be awesome. Yeah. I probably would be like, "Well, this is a blast." Just to be like, "This fucking sucks."
What?
I would like to do.
She and I had a lot of fun last time.
Not on a boat.
Oh,
you would be like, "I'm bored."
Yeah, totally.
Have you heard of that?
Cruise Hammer? Yeah,
they
came up a couple of years ago.
Dude, weren't you the one that originally linked Cruise Hammer like 2 years ago?
Matt Riddle.
It's probably Matt. Yeah. But yeah, I want to do it. They still do them.
Yeah,
I think
they do.
I was signed up for the newsletter and I haven't received it yet, so I don't know what they do. It like what every other year.
Probably realized that you couldn't afford to go on cruise.
Well, probably
they did a background check on you. They did a credit check.
Starving unemployed artist.
A lot of stores do that as I walk in. No, sir, you have to leave. It's actually why I stopped drinking. Brown Jug was like, nope. Wait, that toothless guy over there came in. Yeah, he's doing better than you.
His assets are a little bit more
He makes $250 a day. Megan, okay, $250 a day. That's enough.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
All right, so that's it. I've been Dave.
Hey, Dave.
You've been.
I'm still Ted.
Ted, and we were joined by Danny.
Thanks, Danny.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
All right, have a good day, guys. This episode of Mob Rules has been brought to you by Mob Rules Media. Please join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation at facebook.com/mobrulesak. You can also email us at themob@tophat-arts.com. Thanks for checking us out, and we will see you in 2 weeks.